What's up, everybody? This is Jason David Frank, the Green Ranger, and you are watching Ranger Wrap Up.
No, how do you mean no? I mean, I'm holding on to this plastic.
Yo, Joe, what up? We're live.
Yo, welcome to the Ranger Wrap Up. We are here live. I know I was just on my phone. I was like, I was trying to sort things out, but we are live talking about Ranger stuff this week. How you doing, Joseph?
Doing well. How about you?
Doing great. We have a lot of news to talk about today.
Let's go to the news
apparently,
first.
Yeah, I know. This is why I was like, yo, don't we usually cut to the news first before?
All right, here we go.
But yeah, Liz, news. Why doesn't she?
Hey there, and happy Saturday, Ranger Nation! What is up? Welcome to the Ranger Wrap Up. Whole bunch of stuff, different content creators, all bringing you a fantastic show every single Saturday. This week, of course, we have Joe and Jezra in the studio, maybe with more special guests. Josh is coming to you with toy news. We've got Ash with the comics. We've got fan theories. We've got a fan club spotlight. Woo! We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Arlem? It's Heirloom, but I'm going to call him Arlem now from here on out with the Henshin Hangout. And my name is Ranger Liz, and we are going to be talking about all the news and the stuff that happened in your world of Power Rangers. Hi! We had a few things this week, so stick around. Matt Groom is going to be leaving the comics, chat about that in a bit. A little bit of Pride stuff happening, big things to Showrunners. Got some big news on that for the Power Ranger universe. That is going to be on the way. Before you get too settled in, though, if you're enjoying the show, please leave a like on it. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. You can also check out the links in the notes, so you can find the direct links to all of the creators and everybody you're going to see on the show today. And, of course, if you want, hit that super chat and let us know what you're thinking about the show. Chat, I hope you're having a fantastic day so far. Let us know, how's your week been? Guys, mine absolutely flew by. That's also because it's technically Thursday night. I digress. It's Saturday afternoon, right? Right. I'm going to mention the first thing this week is that Hasbro put out these awesome Pride shirts. Yeah, Izzy and Fern. And they did put something on YouTube, I believe, earlier this week. It was about Izzy and Fern. So, yeah, awesome. So, they have this shirt that is out. There's also a My Little Pony one. And it's only going to be $25. You can get it in like 4 different colors. And it comes up to size 4XL. So for all of my friends, no matter what size you are, they're going to hook you up. $25, $5 is going to be going to the Trevor Project, which is a great organization. So happy Pride Month to everybody. My rainbow flag has been, I've just been really busy. I'm sorry. I've kind of blown off Pride Month this month. It's just bad, Liz. Bad. Sorry. Silky smooth, luxurious fabric. Printing on June 20th. Estimated arrival for ya the 4th of July. Meaning you're not going to really get it because the post office, like, who's getting mail delivered on the 4th of July? I don't know. But maybe you'll get it and show that flag off. Yeah! Be you! Awesome. Happy Pride Month. Everyone, next bit of news. This happened actually technically last week, but it was later, so we didn't really talk about it. But Matt Groom is also going to be leaving the Power Ranger comic universe. He said, Mighty Morphin 22 coming in August will be my last issue. I've had a tremendous time working team and Boom editorial team. It's bittersweet, but it's been a lovely experience, and the Rangers are in great hands. So this is crazy. Yeah, Big Charge 100, Ryan Merritt's leaving. Matt's going to be leaving after issue 22, Wow. And if you want to stay tuned, I have some more stuff in comics and the future of comics and where all the books and stuff we're heading. So stay tuned till later, and Ash is going to be giving you a bit of update on all of that. But I got to say, best wishes to Matt Groom. However, he's fine. If you want to read anything else by him, he did put this out. It is called Self-Made. It is pretty awesome, and he's actually going to be writing on Inferno Girl Red, which is coming out later this year. There's a Kickstarter and stuff. I'm actually a backer on it. Very excited to see it. It's going to be in like the whole Radiant Black universe, which I know is in Power Rangers, but some of y'all really love. And he is currently on the Ultraman stuff, so the comics. So if you want Ultra 7, he's currently writing that as well with previous Power Rangers writer Kyle Higgins, they're also busy. Again, sad they're leaving, but, you know, something that Ryan Parrott also created for all Power Rangers was the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers TMNT crossover! Woo! And out of that, we've gotten some Lightning Collection figures, but now we are getting some Funko Pops, San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, of course. It doesn't say anything about price or how many of them or anything are actually going to be there. It is just going to be a Funko limited edition. So I guess this is going to be another convention, or you're going to get the other ones, because there's really, remember, they made they made 3 2-packs, and then the Shredder one. Right. So that is more toy stuff. I do have to say, I want to ask you guys in chat, did you pick up anything this week? Did you have any hauls? I found this guy at Ross for only $4.50. It's this little construction set here. I thought it would be fun to maybe put it together. But yeah, it was only $5. So I'm like, okay, I'm a sucker. I have to get it. Chat, did any of you guys pick up anything this week? Doesn't necessarily have to be Power Ranger related. Maybe you're a G.I. Joe fan, Transformers or whatever. I totally understand. I have some Transformers friends myself. I only know of Wheeljack because of Josh. Apparently. It's weird. Anywho, let us know in chat if you picked up anything. And speaking of Josh, this is about whenever I throw it over to Josh, because he has other toy news to talk about. So, don't you, Josh? Take it away, boy wonder.
Hello, Power Rangers Lightning Collection fans. This is Josh Perry from the Illuminerdi, and here's everything that happened this past week for the Power Rangers Lightning Collection. First of all, for this week, Hasbro Pulse sent out some emails claiming that the Deluxe Wave 1 figures of Piranha's Head and In Space Blue with the Galaxy Glider are going to finally be shipping out from the site pretty soon here, which is great because I didn't realize that they weren't already out at Pulse. I thought they would have been out at different stores for months at this point, so I didn't realize that Pulse didn't have them yet. But if you got them from Pulse or you were waiting on them from Pulse, it looks like you're going to be getting them pretty soon. Also, speaking of in stocks, if you got Ready Clipdoor from Big Bad Toy Store, that has also been in stock now in Big Bad Toy Store, which just adds to the list of different fan channel retailers that have been getting a Ready Clipdoor in stock the last couple of weeks, like In Demand Toys and Entertainment Earth, and now Big Bad Toy Store, and even Hasbro Pulse even had them a couple weeks ago. So that figure's pretty much out at all the major fan channels. I think only like GameStop is like one of the only ones that hasn't had him yet. So if there's plenty of places for you to get him if you haven't gotten him yet. And then moving over to the UK retailer Star Action Toys posted on their Facebook page an update of some different Hasbro products that they are expecting to come in stock by the end of July, including a couple of big ticket Lightning Collection items that are going to be arriving in the UK a little earlier than their originally slated release dates, and that is the Zord Ascension Project Dino Megazord and the most recently revealed Blue Ranger helmet and Blue Ranger Power Lance. So a lot of those were slated for like August or October or even December for like the lance and the helmet. So this is definitely kind of a surprise, especially if you got them from this UK retailer, because you might have to pay for these very expensive items a couple months earlier than you were expecting. So just keep that in mind if you're a fan of the UK, and even if you're not, if those actually get released by the end of the month of July in the UK, it's possible that they could release here a little earlier in the US as well. So just everybody get prepared for those big 3 items to actually be shipping out a little sooner than was originally slated. And with that, that's everything we have to talk about for this week. We're kind of in the middle of a big Lightning Collection drought right now, ever since our last official announcement nearly a month ago. But if you guys would like to check out the full episode of Lightning Storm, where I go in detail on all these different stories and a little bit more, you can check that out on the Toku Topics YouTube channel right now, as well as my articles over at the Illuminerdi, and you can follow me on Twitter at LivingRangerKey or LightningFigPR. And this has been a little quickie, Lightning Storm.
The big story this week, Jenny Klein has signed an overall deal for television content with independent studio Entertainment One. Under this 2-year entertainment with Hasbro, right? Under the 2-year pact, Klein will serve as showrunner on E1's Power Rangers series that is currently in development in Netflix. So this came out Tuesday. Huge, because first, we haven't had news in forever. If you would like my whole 10-minute whatever thought of it, I don't know if there'll be a card, but you can go ahead and check out my page, and it should be the most recently updated video, so I have a much longer video talking about it. But for the sake of this, because believe me, y'all in chat, especially live chat, we're going to be talking about this. So everybody's going to be talking about it in the studio, so I don't want to go, like, you know, beat a dead horse or whatever too much. But this is really awesome because we haven't had any news in, like, forever. And to have anything is just really nice. I need news. And I'm sure everyone back in the studio, we're going to tell you more about Jenny Klein and then go over the movies and everything else in the series and stuff that she's done. But I do want to let you know that I told you right away because, hey, Jonathan Entwistle was like, he took Power Rangers off his Twitter. Does that mean something? I don't know. Goes on to say she'll collaborate on the series with Jonathan Entwistle, who is currently overseeing the Power Rangers universe under a deal he signed in 2020 to develop the franchise across film and television. It's going to be a whole universe, and I hope it is for me and not against me. Really, just this brand, we just need something right now. I know it's all simmering, it's all on the surface right now, but hopefully we have some stuff more soon. But right now, I'm very happy with this. Let me know what you guys think about getting a new showrunner, because again, let's do spoilers. We'll talk about it more in the live segments. She's done some really amazing things, and I hope this means Power Rangers is going to turn into a really amazing thing. And I will say that Simon Bennett, because through all of this, you know, he's on Dino Fury right now, and he hasn't been mentioned in all of this. He went on, and it was after words, you know, everything had gone out. He tweeted, "I'm still here. Hashtag Dino Fury." So I don't know if he's still, I mean, Dino Fury is still happening right now, right? To which I said, I'm very thankful that he's still here. In fact, a few weeks ago, Joe had asked me, hey, what would you think if, you know, Jonathan Entwistle was out and Simon Bennett took over? And I was like, I would be okay with it. He's done the work. Like, he gets the show. He's getting, you know, the heart of the show. So, okay, I would be fine with it. And so he just said, I'm still here. I am not going to, there are no rumors, do not take anything I say. I'm not saying he's still, like, he's going to be a part of the huge universe. Maybe he's just there still just for Dino Fury. Maybe he's in other parts, you know, that they're just not talking about. We have absolutely no idea. But he is still here. And he's always here in our hearts. Because Dino Fury is really awesome. God, we needed to win. So my name is Ranger Liz. If you want to follow me on social media at Ranger_Liz, basically everywhere. And I've got to tell you, my maybe favorite pickup of the week is not Ranger related, but I got a black pink in your area. I got a light stick. Also at Ross for only $6. Never thought I would see one in my entire life, let alone at a Ross for only $6. But it makes me really happy. So I hope you guys enjoyed my part of the show. Have an absolutely fantastic Saturday, Ranger Nation. And I'm going to go ahead and throw it back to the studio where they can talk about everything we just did with all of you. Use Super Chats. Like, subscribe, comment, later. Joe!
Yo!
Finally, Jezer got the rundown correct. This is what the real intro was supposed to be. So thank you guys so much for joining us on this beautiful Saturday here for the Ranger Wrap-Up. We are here live to talk about the latest Power Ranger news breaking from around the net. We have it live for you right here. I am Joe Deckelmeyer alongside my co-host Jezer Reyes. Thank you so much, Liz, Josh Perry, and the rest of our team still to come. We got our fan club coming up. We got Deoxy here. We got Heirloom here talking Super Sentai. We have it all. We got you covered. If you're here for Power Rangers, we got you covered. But first of all, in the chat, I want to thank you guys for joining us. Jezer, who is in the chat? Where are you guys from? Where are you guys streaming us from? We already got Mikey. He's on vacation in New York.
Yeah.
But where are the rest of you guys?
We got
And
Mark Heirlooms here, Johnny Marrera, Robert Amaya, Ash Dioxy, Harris Ward, Mariba Forday, Jalen Glover, who else we got? Morphin Henshin Heroes, Gabe Santia, Sentinel, I don't know how to read, D Mikey Nerd Gaming, Edward Sanchez. What up, everybody?
what's going on, guys? We have the super chat feature as well. That helps support the show. But yes, we have a lot to talk about today. A lot to unpack today. And our Ranger discussion, of course, is going to be on our new Power Rangers showrunner, which we are excited to discuss. But before we get into that, Jezer, I know you and I, sometimes during the week, we talk a little bit about Power Rangers and a little bit about Super Sentai. You have been on a quest, my friend, to watch Donbrothers. Am I correct? Did you find your downloads?
Thanks to Mark, Mr. Heirloom, I did find a link. Haven't got a chance to start it yet, but I'm pretty excited. I'm also kind of intrigued a little bit to start Zenkaiger first. I don't know why. I just because we watched Lupin versus Pataranger. I think that's the last one we watched, and then I skipped Cure Major. I'm just intrigued.
Hey, what gets you in and out of Super Sentai, if I may ask?
I think the accessibility. The whole process back in the day when we were watching Lupat, I don't do this, haven't done this anymore, but the process is you go to some shady websites and you download them, and then your computer breaks because it's got a lot of freaking like crazy spam. So I think it's the accessibility.
So do you seek out the Super Sentai specifically for what seasons you want to watch, or are you trying to actively try to watch everything, or at least when you can, the accessibility wise, try to watch everything if you can get your hands on it?
It was at the time just trying to watch what was airing and what people were watching, only because I wanted to keep up with it. But I don't know.
Wait, so then what is it about Donbrothers that's kind of drawing you in? Is it Heirloom's Henshin Hangout segments? That
and just the aesthetic of the whole thing, where the Black Ranger is like some tall, skinny, thin man looking dude, and you got. Oh no, the black is the Rocket Raccoon type character, right? The pink is the
right.
Yeah. So it's just like such a weird like look. It's like Guardians of the Galaxy.
I will say
type look.
I think that's the one thing I kind of respect the most about Super Sentai is their ability to really take a chance and really go for it. And sometimes it hits and sometimes it falls flat. But when it hits hard. And I'll say this about Super Sentai. I love their creation and their villains. I think the Super Sentai villains and the motivations are pretty solid usually. But like I said, when they swing for the fences, they hit home runs. However, sometimes it falls flat. But we've had seasons here at Power Rangers that have fallen flat before. But, I like getting my Henshin Hangout, my Super Sentai content from Heirloom and Henshin Hangout. So let's find out what he has to say about it.
Hello and welcome back to the Henshin Hangout with me, Mark, aka Heirloom. Today we've got just the review because there is no news whatsoever. There's no Sentai stuff, no toy news, nothing that I could see around the internet this week. But if anything pops up this week, I'll report it next week because, news. Let's jump straight into this review. This one, I generally like this one because it felt like this entire episode moved on a little bit. Now, there was a lot of things, well, maybe one or two things that generally really irritated me, but we'll get into that. We'll get straight into that. We jump straight into this episode where we see that Jiro Momitani is there and he is training, saying that he wants to be the very best, the best there ever was, or mainly he just wants to be just the best hero, the greatest one around, and he's still trying to get the others to kind of like him, etc, etc. And I kind of dig this, and I feel like, again, this should have been a much later on thing rather than it being what it is now. So I was a bit kind of like, but for what it is, I think I kind of like his character. It's going to be a few more episodes until I'm like, do you know what? I'm all okay with this one. Now, one thing I didn't kind of get, and I'm going to throw a prediction out here. I feel that Don Momotaro as well as Sony are like kindred spirits in a way, like brothers or something like that. And I feel like their fight is going to lead up to something, or in the last episode that maybe they have to fight for all eternity because nothing will stop him. And I kind of really like Sonic. He, out of the main bad guys, he to me is like the best one, because it feels like, how do I say, it feels like he's very honorable when it comes to it. And we don't normally see that many bad guys. So he feels, when he saw Don Momotaro come onto the field, he was really happy. He felt a little bit of joy, which I thought, oh, I didn't kind of see that one coming. We have the Pink Ranger meeting Mr. Inuzuka, which obviously is Donbrothers Black. And they're kind of having a conversation, because I feel like these guys are going to become really good friends. But obviously there's going to be some huge big thing much later on, because obviously Natsumi is obviously is basically Pink's wife, and that's going to be a very interesting storyline. So I'm very much looking forward to how they're going to kind of like conclude that to me. But mainly there's kind of talk about it. We see Inuzuka actually turn around and show a picture of his of Natsumi to Pink, and it's just basically a cat. It's like a filter, and it's just like, what, how the hell, like, how would you even see this? I did generally kind of find that like a little bit funny all the way through, but I feel like something big is going to come along much later on. Now, one thing is with Pink, I'm not a big fan of his anger. It's like, if anything happens to his Miko-chan, is what he says. Like, if anything happens to Miko, what happens is he just literally like bursts into like, how dare you type thing. And I can see it and I can understand it, but I think it's just the way that he goes about, which really kind of irritates me just a little bit. And that's what kind of makes me go, why are you like that? Why? So he is now this new monster that is basically getting rid of cars, motor vehicles, anything that moves, basically, that is like a car or motorbike, he gets rid of, because obviously the only thing he can really say is traffic safety. And that is all. It's Car Ranger. His gear's Car Ranger. Yellow and blue appear, and they are ready to fight him. They don't really know, and obviously he moves really fast, so obviously he kind of like knocks them down, etc, etc. And this is when Momitani comes in, and he's doing this whole thing of throwing rocks again, because he wants to be this hero. And I kind of get it, like he wants to prove himself. So everyone gets kind of really mad, because the giant boulder that he throws hits Blue in the face, knocks him out, and they all go back to the cafe, and they're saying like, hey, you need to stop doing this. You need to stop getting in our faces, and you're not a hero. You can't transform. But they've had this discussion to bring back Don Momotaro to try and use more of their kind of wishes and stuff like that. And unfortunately, with this, it doesn't kind of work, mainly because they're in the negative, so that means that things are going to happen. Will it be something of them like dying or something? Because that does come up in this, and I was like, oh, that's a bit weird. But because of this, Haruka loses the ability to walk, and Blue loses the ability to make haikus, which is mainly devastating for him on this one. Momitari has basically told them that he does know Don Momotaro due to the fact that he was on a school trip and some people were beating him up. It just feels weird. Like, I could have understood if it was the other way around. Momotani was about to be beaten up, and that's when Don Momotaro jumps in and saves him. But obviously it just felt really weird, because you don't actually see him at all, which made me just kind of think, is this just something that they just threw it in together? It just, to me, didn't make sense. Black is running around, and he is looking for Natsumi again. Kinijo is at home with Mitsuho, and she is basically cooking like this sausage octopus thing, which again I've seen quite a lot in anime, as well as like other J-dramas and stuff like that, which is really nice. But he gets really angry and transforms into the traffic safety monster, which I think the one thing that I don't like about Kinijo is basically, I think it's his whininess. It's like, he'll be like talk normally, and then say Mitsuho will actually hurt herself, and he's like, oh no, what you doing? Oh no. And I think that's the one thing that just irritates me all the way through this, because it shouldn't have to be like that. It just really puts me off this. But he transforms into the monster of the day and basically goes downtown. And this is when we see Black run around, transform, but he's not really in it that much. And he's just runs off. So which kind of made me think that maybe this episode isn't CGI heavy, or they're trying to move away from this. And if they are, then I think it's what's losing the magic of Donbrothers. Everybody runs in and they see Kinijo transform again into the traffic safety monster, because for some strange reason he's just depowered. He's super angry and he attacks them. This is when Momitani jumps in. This is when he gains the power. Dong Dragoku. We're going to call him Dragoku because that's a cooler name. Either way, he has this ability. He transforms, and this is the one thing that irritates me in the entire whole series. It's his morphing thing, where the others have gone like, Dawn. This one's just screaming in your face constantly, and I don't like that. I just feel like you can't really hear anything going on. So when it's morphed, it's like, ah! You're like, what? What was that? And it's just screaming in your face. So just, again, it's kind of out of place, where it's just like, oh, you're not really worth it. So if we destroy you, maybe your powers will be given to someone else, so I can have you as my team. And I'm just like, why don't you all just work together? That's what I would suggest. Haruka turns around and says, no, I like him. He's good. We need him back. And this is when Sonic comes around and says, hey, just to let you know, I'm going to help you. He's asleep. Don Momotaro is asleep right now in another dimension. But I need to defeat a monster to be able to send you there. So meet me at this location, which they do. And thus, therefore, Sonny actually attacks Konji and says, boom, you're gone, which then uses Momotani to then jump in, grab him, and they teleport into this other dimension where we see all of them kind of like sleeping. Now, previously, we all thought, or I mainly thought, that as soon as they are destroyed, that is it. There is no coming back from this. But effectively, they're put to sleep in this other dimension, which again is a little bit weird, but I'm glad they kind of like explain this. Momotani has actually using his abilities to kind of move forward, using flame power, which I thought was kind of cool. Konji wakes up and he transforms, and they fly about a bit to kind of like maneuver around to grab Don Momotaro. They return back to the normal world. Thus, therefore, Konji turns back into a monster, and we get a double morph with Don Momotaro and then obviously Momotani. And thus, therefore, they fight. And one thing I will give them in this is, well, not give them, so I'm going to take it away, is like when they morph, you hear 3 tracks basically. You'll hear the music, and then you'll hear Don Momotaro transform, and you have his version where it's like screaming in your face, and then we have Don Momotaro transforming, and all these kind of like sounds don't kind of level out a bit, so it just feels like you can't hear the other, and 2, you can't, it's like, why? I'm not a big fan of this when it comes to it, but at the end of the day, they defeat Konji very, very quickly, and they do it with a really cool dragon 3D effect, which I generally kind of really liked. And they get the Car Ranger gear, which then transforms into the Donbrothers one, which I kind of liked. And thus, therefore, we get a very emotional end, where basically Blue is able to recite haikus. Haruko is able to walk again after Don Momotaro screams at her, and kind of gives her that thing, kind of pep talk, which then makes her kind of go like, where the hell did you get off talking to me like that? We get the really nice music, and thus therefore she falls over right into his lap, and they cuddle for a bit, or she hugs him and he smiles, and it's very, very emotional. And that's therefore the end of the episode. And now we get the preview for the next one, where it looks like Momitani is actually evil, or has an evil side, which I generally kind of like, I need to see this. I need to see the next episode. Why have we not seen this episode? So I kind of thought, do you know what? This is really cool. I really like it. And I'm looking forward to the next episode where he basically almost solos the entire team. So I'm looking forward to that one. But that's really it. There's not really been much Sentai news. That's my review of it. This episode is an alright one. It's very emotional near the end, and that's what makes it the best. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there. My name is Mark. If you want to check out my videos and anything like that, then head over to Airlim. And if you want to follow me on any social media, then obviously we've got YouTube as Airlim, Instagram as Airlim, and Facebook as Airlim. But if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Mainstream Live. And with that, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks very much for watching this segment. Let me know what you think down below in the chat, and then down below in the comments. And I will see you next week. Bye!
Yo.
Well, Airlim and Ash
Hello.
are joining us here live. We're going to be talking Donbrothers real quick. Now, Heirloom, you just gave us your kind of wrap up on this as we were talking behind the scenes a little bit. You're not too fond of the Pink Ranger this season, huh?
No, it's just his voice when he's like, "Hey, yeah, I'm gonna help you all." And like, no, my chin. No, just stop it. No. Oh, everything is about his wife. Like, I guarantee, if she turned around and went, "Can you kill all the rest?" It'd be like, "Yeah, all right, no problem," and just wipes out the entire team.
That's crazy.
Ash, are you watching the current season of Super Sentai?
Oh yeah, I'm loving Donbrothers. Like Donbrothers, like on a story level, because it's written by the same guy who did Jetman. It's so different from what we've gotten so far, where it took like 10 episodes for them to get the mech, which is like sort of like classic Sentai. A lot of the characters barely know who they are, and I think they've discovered all of them but the Black Ranger, so it takes a while for the team to know who they are, but the action and the music is really good. The music for Donbrothers is phenomenal. I love it, but the story is really great as well, and it's keeping me engaged each week, like, because usually when you watch Sentai, you fall off with the monster of the week, but something about Donbrothers just keeps me watching it.
Nice.
That's amazing. Now, a few of you in the chat, I know that you guys have fallen off of Super Sentai, and some of you guys are just getting a taste of it for the first time. Morph Henshin Hero says, I'm at Jetman and enjoying and looking forward to getting to Jew Ranger and the other Super Sentai Rangers going forward. Donnie Pearsons, welcome to the chat, says, hello, Jez and Joe and all. Hope all is well this afternoon. He's at GoGo 5 at the moment on Tubi. That's a great plug for Tubi. It's not sponsored by us, but if you do want to watch Super Sentai in the United States, Tubi is a great destination place to get some of your Super Sentai needs there. It doesn't have everything there, but it does have a lot of it has all the Shout Factory ones there, I believe.
Yeah. And Kamen Rider too. And
Kamen Rider as well.
Nice.
So if you guys want to check out Tubi in the United States, that is a great place to start. In the chat, like I said before, we have the Super Chat feature, which helps support the show. But guys, we got some big news earlier, and we're gonna hold off in talking about like the big Jenny Klein showrunner thing. But in terms of something like Donbrothers, is this something that can easily be adapted for American audiences into a Power Ranger season?
Oh, I would say if the comedy was the same, it could be. But I think due to the stories, maybe not. I think that's the only thing. I think the major thing is, even if it could be, is the CGI, that they'd have to redo everything from scratch, because if they've got some of the locations, they'd have to really do it. But they do have normal suits, so they could just use those suits normally. So you just have a giant dog for one. But the Pink Ranger, his suit looks pretty good, so you just get a taller person and you'd be fine. But yeah, it's a bit of a hit and miss thing, I think.
You can make that work, like a tall.
I think that if
tall Japanese stuntmen, do they exist?
I'm sure they do. I think you could. It's just the CGI. That's the only problem that I see with it. But if they took their time with it, I think that they could possibly adapt it. But we know they're a bit lazy at times.
Yeah.
So
we're about a third of the way through with Donbrothers. Are you still chugging along just as great as before, or are you starting to get a little bit of fatigue with Donbrothers?
I want more of it. I would want 2 episodes a week. Yeah, with Zenkaiger, I got really kind of every week after a while. But with Donbrothers, I was just like, I need more. It's like the whole thing, if you watch Heroes back in the day, if it was a boring episode, the last 2 minutes could hook you so much, be like, what's going on? So next week is the one where the Sixth Ranger goes evil, and it's like, oh, that's a bit weird. I want to know more, so I'm more excited about that than most of the episode.
So do they explain, because they're all human, right? They're civilian, they're all humans, and then for example, the Black Ranger turns into the little shorter character. Do they explain why that happens?
I don't think,
not really.
No, they've not explained it at the moment. I'm guessing that could be much later on, halfway through the series, where it's but why do we do this? And then he goes, oh, yeah, this is why. And it's oh, nice.
It's kind of like a Justin from Turbo type transition when they morph. He's a normal sized human, and then he turns into some kind of what animal is he representing?
It's a dog.
A dog, yeah.
But I do love how the Yellow Ranger calls him Little Papa whenever he's around her, because they don't know who he is. He's the cool thief guy, but he's just little short Ranger, so no one really knows who he is yet.
That's crazy.
There is a question in the chat from Mariba, who is one of our writers at the Illuminerdi. He asks, how do I watch Sentai? I'm asking on behalf of everyone that doesn't live in the United States. Now, we are not encouraging anybody to do anything illegal. However, currently right now, Super Sentai isn't really available besides like in Japan. It hasn't really hit other countries. Here's the interesting thing, because we were talking about this between us as well, is that Asian cinema has really picked up, whether it be K-dramas. Obviously, there was the rise of Squid Games, and it seems like people are really consuming Asian cinema. Do you guys think there's a place for Super Sentai to be a part of that, or even Tokusatsu in general? And if so, what streaming platform can you see this on? Because I think Amazon Prime would be a great landing spot for Super Sentai, the simulcast and things like that. We know we've seen it in the past with things like Kamen Rider Amazons. So I feel that like this would be a great landing place for Super Sentai, and to get that multicast or that dual cast of us getting it live at the same time as Japan would be phenomenal as well.
That would be cool.
So I think it should go to 3 platforms. It should go to Netflix, Amazon, and Crunchyroll, because then you hit all the major big ones. And I do think there is, but I think if you put Super Sentai, I think people would just be like, oh, this is just like Power Rangers. And I think it might loosen it a bit, but like Kamen Rider, I reckon people would just eat up straight away.
Kamen Rider people would love.
I love it. Kamen Rider, they're actually having the premiere of the anime over at Anime Expo in 2
they're having
2 weeks.
A large presence in Anime Expo. Hey, listen, if you're a Kamen Rider fan, and especially here in the United States, and you plan on wanting to get the latest information on Kamen Rider, the latest updates on the newest series, some of their products, Anime Expo is the place to be. It seems like they're going to have a lot of information dropping on Kamen Rider at Anime Expo. So if you're in the greater Los Angeles area, come out to Anime Expo and check out that Kamen Rider stuff. I believe there's also going to be a Kamen Rider meetup one of the nights. So, come down and check it out. And I want to talk real quick about, we all love Super Sentai, we all love Tokusatsu, we all love Power Rangers, and another medium of that is the comics. And Ash, you've been really diving deep into the comics, and issue 20 just came out. And before we get into your review about it, are you satisfied with where the comics are going and where they're headed? Because we know a lot of creators are currently leaving the comics. So are they leaving in an optimal place for the comics?
Yeah. Usually when one writer leaves the comics, it opens the door for another one. And I'm really looking forward to see what's going to happen after like issue 100. That'd be really exciting, because Ryan's done a really good job, Matt's done a really good job, and I'm curious to see how they're going to end it all, because Ryan's been doing the comic for 6 years, so this has been years of story built up. So I want to see how he's going to end it all, because I thought that the comics were going to end after the Eltarian War, but it kept going. But seeing how they're pushing for 100 issues, I want to see how big issue 100 is really going to be, because they're hyping it up to be this big event where several artists and writers are coming back. So I can't wait to see how that's going to happen.
That's cool.
You know what? Do we have a clip of you talking about this week's issue? All right, let's go to that, and then let's get back. Let's come back, and I want to talk about where we think the comics either could possibly be going or the state of where they're at now. But let's hit the video.
So Power Rangers issue 20. This issue, if I can describe it with one word, is kind of heartbreaking, because this issue is the funeral of Jason's mother, where Jason had learned a couple of issues ago that his mother had passed away. And this is a big loss for Jason, where he loses someone very important to him. And not only that, when Jason gets back to Earth, people who are close to him are sort of moving on in their own ways, and Jason doesn't know how to process this. So Jason is sort of going through this character moment or character arc where he doesn't know what to do next with his life, or he doesn't know what's going to happen next, and he's sort of trying to figure out how to grieve and process this loss of losing someone important to him. And a lot of people were praising Ryan Parrott by doing this, because a lot of people said they can relate to this with Jason losing someone close to them, or the audience can relate to losing someone close to him. And seeing what Jason's going through, I'm guessing that once again, a lot of you guys watching this video, or the readers, can probably relate to what Jason's going through right now, as Jason is sort of going through the emotional highs and lows of losing someone important to him. Not only that, we've got the stuff going on in space with Andros, where Andros is sort of doing his own stealthy mission where he sneaks into the Omega Ranger vault on Safe Haven and finds the morpher to the Death Ranger, setting up the big story arc where the Death Ranger is going to be the next big threat in the Power Ranger comic, leading to issue 100. So that's going to be something as well. So without any further ado, let's talk about Power Rangers issue 20. So the first couple of pages is the funeral and the wake of Jason's mum. And I'm not going to spend too much time on these pages because they are very quite sad, and a lot of people can probably relate to something like this and understand what Jason's going through in this comic right now. And for anyone who has experienced this, you do have my condolence. But we find out how Jason's mum passed away, and to be honest, it's kind of scary because it is something that I even fear for the people I know every day in my life, and it's just that Jason's mum just never woke up and she died in her sleep. That's what they say. And that is a scary way to go out, and I'm probably going to leave it at there because although the funeral and the wake scene does have some emotional and touching moments, like Ernie sort of consoling Jason and being that father figure, it is hard to talk about with this scene because it is really sad and heartbreaking, and I don't want to spend too much time on it. So after that, we then have Andros and Eleven interrogating the alien that they captured from last month. And this alien is such an arsehole, like, they're trying to get information out of him and he is not budging. And he even taunts Andros by saying, you know, I invaded other worlds before KO-35, somewhere much smaller and less advanced where they only had pitchforks and shovels, and they even fought harder than your people did. So he mocks him right there by saying something like that. And then he just rubs even more dirt on the wound by saying, deny it all you want, but Dark Spectre was right. Your world is just begging to be conquered. And after that, Eleven and Andros walk away because they're unsuccessful. But then Andros comes back in, and he's got the black stealth suit on. And he interrogates the alien in his own way by essentially beating the shit out of him and trying to get answers out of him, which is a part of their plan that's going to come into play later down the line in this issue. So after the whole Andros interrogation, which is far from over, we'll jump back to that in a little bit, we have Jason and his dad in the kitchen, and we kind of get to see what their life is like. And Jason tells his dad saying, hey, after the peace conference, I can come back for a little bit and help around the house if you need me, if there's anything you need me to do. And Jason's dad is like, no. And Jason's like, why not? And Jason's dad replies with, well, I'm selling the house. And Jason's shocked by this news, as anyone else would be. And Jason's dad says, I'm selling the house, the paperwork is already done, and once that's done with, I'm moving the Crawford to stay with my sister. So Jason's sort of like freaking out, saying, we can't even discuss this and stuff like that. And Jason's dad also replies with saying, hey, there's been a lot of alien attacks and Angel Grove isn't the safest place. And Jason's rebuttal is saying, hey, do you think Mum would have wanted this? I can come back here and help. And Jason's dad isn't having any of that. And his response is kind of blunt and upfront by saying, what can you do, Jason? Stare at me like she did for the last year and a half, just waiting for me to fall apart? And then he tells Jason saying, hey, I don't want you here, understand? I'm going to live my life the way I want to, and I expect you to do the same. And that's where that conversation ends, where they have this heart-to-heart talk where Jason's dad does kind of come off as an arsehole in this conversation, but people grieve in their own way, and the best thing that Jason's dad is doing right now is sort of packing everything up and moving away and just moving on with his life, and he wants Jason to sort of do the same by saying, live the way you want to live your life. and don't let anyone else influence it. So I can understand where he's coming from, but there's like a lot of emotional damage in this episode. So after that, we then cut to the juice bar or the rec center, where we get a cute little scene where Journey is putting on a magic show for everyone via phone live streaming, and you've got Jason and Tommy sparring, where Tommy gives Jason the recap of what's been going on in his comic series, and he sort of implies that he wants Jason to hunt down King Aradon and scare him and make sure he never comes back, but Tommy reassures him that King Aradon won't be returning anytime soon because Rocky gave the dude a beatdown and scared him off, which, if you think the machines are gone, Tommy, you're dead wrong. So, after that, Jason's main goal is to get back to Safe Haven and help Andros out, but Trini says that Zach and her can take care of it, so take as much time as he wants. And Jason says thanks for the concern, but you don't have to treat me like glass. I know it sucks, but he's doing okay, he promises. Then we cut back to Safe Haven once again, which we're going to be doing a couple of times, jumping back between Safe Haven and Earth in this issue. We have Andros and 11 interrogating the alien once again, and this time he's more compliant, but he's a little bruised up from Andros's beating he gave him a couple of pages ago, but this time he's more compliant and he turns himself in, and 11 puts him in an urn and puts him into the big vault that we saw way back in Necessary Evil. And Andros has a plan where he's working with the alien to get teleported in there. What Andros wants in there, we're not entirely sure, and we'll probably find out later down the line, but Andros soon gets distracted as he hears a mysterious voice calling out to him. This voice, of course, being the Death Ranger calling out to him, but it's so weird why Andros wanted to go into this vault. Like, I don't get it. There might have been something he was looking for. We don't know. I don't know. Hopefully that it gets explained later down the line. So after that, we then cut to Jason and Zordon having a bit of a discussion. And things do get very emotional in this discussion. It starts off with Jason telling Zordon about the people of KO-35 and how Dark Spectre's looming out there. So Jason comes up with the theory or the possibility of Dark Spectre attacking Zordon's allied planets while he's unable to do anything. So that could be a part of it. But you've got Jason sort of having this emotional breakdown as he's still trying to come to terms with what he's lost and what to do next, because Zordon recommends that he should take a break, but Jason doesn't want to take a break. I mean, he says, what should he do? Just sit around and cry? Binge Netflix? And he even tells Zordon that there's nothing left for him on Earth. The Rangers don't need him, his dad doesn't need him, and the one person that did need him, that was his mother, is gone. So Jason just opens up to Zordon and just goes on this big speech where he's sad that his mom's gone, and he then talks about Andros by saying Andros lost everything. He lost his planet, everyone he cares about, and Jason says he's kind of jealous because he can take out all that anger and rage at one point at someone or something. But here Jason is, or here I am, Jason says, with no one to blame and nothing to punch. And that's kind of the parallels that Jason and Andros have right now, where Andros' planet and his people were attacked and destroyed by someone, where Jason lost his mother due to natural causes, you can say, so he's got no one to blame and there's nothing for him to take his anger out on, so that's why he's practically beating himself up. And a lot of people do have the theory and the speculation that Jason's going to become a bit of a loose unit and start going off the walls crazy. We have yet to see that, but that could happen. But it's the parallels between what these two characters have lost and how they're dealing with their loss. So after that, we then have Andros going through the vault, and he's talking to the mysterious voice that is the Death Ranger. And the back and forth that they have is very interesting, because you've got the Death Ranger sort of talking in mysteries and riddles like he's a freaking Sith Lord, and Andros asks the Death Ranger, "Are you the one who conquered death?" And the Death Ranger replies with, "I didn't overcome or defeat it. I tamed death." And Andros asks the Death Ranger, saying, "If I release you, will you help me avenge my people and destroy Dark Spectre once and for all?" And the Death Ranger says, "I will do that and so much more." So Andros sort of blows up the chains on the urn, opens it up, and what do we find in the urn? Well, it's not a character, funny enough. It's a morpher, an Omega Ranger morpher. So that is a kind of interesting plot twist of what the Death Ranger is, because I'm guessing that once you use this morpher, you become engulfed by the Death Ranger and possessed by the character, which is probably going to be Andros with his quest for revenge that he wants to take out on Dark Spectre. But it makes sense, because what I mentioned earlier, I was like, what's Andros doing in here? I'm guessing he was trying to find someone who could help him defeat Dark Spectre, and this person is the Death Ranger, which we'll probably be meeting very, very soon, and we'll be learning more about them in August when we get the Death Ranger comics. So either way, this was quite the interesting issue. Sad, but it's also setting up the Death Ranger storyline we're getting later down the line. But there's also other plot elements that I'm wondering are going to come into play later, like Vox's people going to Safe Haven. Are they going to show up eventually? I mean, they were teased at the start of this story arc. Will they show up? I don't know. But either way, this was a really good issue, an emotional one, but also an interesting one setting up for the next story arc with the Death Ranger. So once again, Ryan Parrott did an amazing job writing this issue, and I can't wait to see where it's going to go next. So what did you guys think of this issue? Tell me in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. With that said, I'm bringing this video to a close. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day or night, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out. Take care. Bye.
Take the lead there.
All right, we are back. That was a fantastic review, Ash, for issue. The heartfelt issue 20 was great.
Yeah, sad
Which probably
issue.
should have said spoiler alerts, but hey, you guys were in the chat. You guys saw the video. I do want to ask you something about this real quick, because we know that the height of Power Ranger comic book fandom had to be Shattered Grid. I know, no questions about it. But currently what we're getting right now, do you think that like we're on par? I mean, this is some pretty solid character storytelling with the Rangers. And love, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like even the Eltarian War was really great storytelling for Zordon, where they sort of made Zordon more human and have this parental figure, but we also got to explore Zordon's home planet and stuff like that. So one thing I'm loving about the comics is it's taking all these characters we grew up with and expanding them. So characters like Trini and Zach and Jason and stuff like that. Like the hardships and the trials that these characters have to go through are really like crazy in the comics. But not only that, we're meeting new characters like controversial character Matt. Not many people love Matt, but Matt is one of those characters where he becomes like a ranger and he has to deal with being a ranger, but he does things his own way. And that's sort of his butting heads with Tommy, where Tommy sort of follows the rules for Zordon and Matt's following the rules for Grace, but their egos get in the way and they clash a lot. So they've got this rivalry going on.
You know, I feel like Power Rangers, the comics, does a really good job of expanding the universe. And that's one thing I love about anything that we get is kind of like, if you take the property, expand upon it. And I think they do a great job at that. I think it's personally only a matter of time until we see other characters that we've been familiar with in Power Ranger history flushed out. I'm talking Raymond. I'm talking Veronica. Many of you may see, who are these people? They were in Power Rangers Zeo and minor characters. I'm talking Curtis. I'm talking Richie. You know what I mean? There's a handful of these characters. Angela. You know what I mean? There's a handful of these characters that Raymond was this dude that was in Zeo. He was like a nerdy tech guy that was kind of helping them out like here and there. Like he didn't know they were Rangers or anything. Anybody
was he the Tanya love interest?
Sean. That's Sean, and he was amazing. Sean was the baseball player. Raymond celebrated Hanukkah with the Rangers. I don't know if you remember. He had the curly long hair.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Maybe we'll get
Why did they need Raymond if they had Billy?
They didn't. Well, you know what? I almost think that during that time frame, and I think the seeds were planted early on in Mighty Morphin. You literally can tell with Richie, the addition of Richie and Curtis were the. I mean, we talked about this a lot. They almost seemed like the setups for taking over for Jason and Zach. And that's when we knew that Twee wasn't really going to switch back then. But then I felt like we got cast members sprinkled out. When we had Angela, we had Veronica. If anybody remembers Veronica, she was like the mean girl that didn't let Aisha into like the Angel Girls Club, and then she went off on Zio, and then she started dating Tanya's ex, Sean, who he was going to turn invisible and fight Adam, but that didn't happen because he had honor, which I'm a little surprised by, because I feel like Sean was such a great character that they could have really expanded upon. Because I feel like he did show that honor towards the end there, you know what I mean? But hey, who knows? Maybe in comic book form. I mean, Matt, he was all in 3 seconds of the show. He became a goddamn Green Ranger.
No. Matt was an original comic character. He's one of Ryan's creations.
He is, but he's also, so he's referenced, so we've talked to Ryan about this. He's literally in one part of the show. So like back in Mighty Morphin season 1, Kimberly goes up to the juice bar and she's actually talking to Matt and she references him by name. So, yeah. Go back and go. There's Raymond. There's my buddy Raymond. Power Ranger Zeo. Let's get a Raymond Lightning Collection figure. Holla. So there we go. But I was talking about,
as well.
Right? The expansion of the Power Rangers comics, Ash. I want to talk to you about this a little bit because when we had our height at Shattered Grid, are we building up towards anything that seems like another big event like that?
We're kind of in an event right now called Charge to 100, where they're building up to issue 100 to celebrate like 100 issues of Power Rangers. Because even though we've got the split where it's Mighty Morphin and Power Rangers, they do have these variant covers where it's like the original logo and it's got the original numbering for the comics. So that's leading up to issue 100. It's really confusing, but we're in an event right now, Charge to 100, which is sort of leading up to the big issue 100. Which I'm really looking forward to because they're hyping it up a lot. Ranger
Nation, give this man a super chat. He's streaming live at 5 a.m. in Australia. By the way, we're coming at you from 3 continents right now. We're in the North America. We are in 3 continents right now, right? Yeah. North America, you got Europe, and we got Australia representing, right?
Yeah.
There you go. But give this man a super chat. Great job on that review. And I know you're excited to charge to 100, but I mean, and
really
listen,
excited.
I mean, I know internally here at the Illuminerdi, we know who the new writer for Power Rangers is going to be. We're not going to reveal that information right now, but we are excited for Power Rangers comics because I think the comics, honestly, ever since their debut, have been one of the strongest points of storytelling in Power Rangers consistently.
Yep.
I think the comics have done a great job.
Yeah.
Yep. I think they should
so
keep
go
making
out
toys
there
of the comic characters.
I agree. Yo, you give me a Dane character, I'm all about
Yeah.
it. Like I would love to get Dane.
Give me an Omega Ranger
Yes.
Lightning Collection
Like
figure.
a whole set. You know, that'd be really cool.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a ton of great. I mean, honestly, I would even take a Matte Green Ranger figure.
I'll take the
Like, I think
Solar
that
Rangers too. I'll take the figures.
Hey, give me the Solar Rangers. Absolutely. I'll take. I love the Solar Rangers. I really do hope we get to see more of them along the lines. Look, Power Rangers comics are killing it, and if you're not reading them, go and check them out. It's a great time to. I mean, Ash, is it now a decent time to jump back on before we get to Charge to 100?
Yeah, now's a decent time to jump back on. Definitely check it out. Maybe start with the Eltarian War or Unlimited Power, one of those story arcs, and see what you like.
There you go. Support Boom Studios, support Power Rangers. Go out there and get the comics. They are killing it right now. Jezzer, I know that we have a solid cast on our show. It's not just today, but just in general. We have Heirloom hanging out with us with Henshin Hangout, bringing us the latest in Super Sentai. Ash brings us the latest in comics. Liz brings us the latest in news. Josh Perry, the latest in the Lightning Collection. And Fan Club brings us the latest in fan theories. But you got to know Fan Club a little bit more. Talk to me. Chat me up about Dan. He's a good dude. He's been on our Ranger Nation discussions, yeah?
Yeah, he's a great dude. He's by his day job is he's a DJ for like weddings and stuff. He used to be a DJ on the radio, so he's got that that energy that it's and when you're talking to him, it's contagious. Like his energy is contagious, and you'd look at him and you listen to him, you wouldn't imagine him being a huge Power Ranger fan, but he is a huge Power Ranger fan, and I think that's how we linked up because the love of Power Rangers bringing everybody together. I think that's great. He's a great dude. He's super cool. too bad he. I mean, I wish we can get the whole team at Power Morphicon together, but I don't think he can make it out. But he's a super enthusiastic fan, and I think that you should check out his channel.
So he also does great fan theories here, and you're going to get one in just a second. But before we do that, we want to introduce you to Fan Club, one of our cast members here at the Illuminerdi, on our Power Ranger fan spotlight. So take it away, Jezer.
Welcome, Illuminator. It is Saturday, and on Saturday, it's time for the Ranger Wrap-Up, and we got a special Ranger Wrap-Up because we got another guest spotlight, and today I'm joined by Dan from the Fan Club. Dan, how are you doing today, sir?
Hey, I am doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me on. This has always been a dream ever since I started this years ago, to work with other Power Ranger YouTubers and collab and just talk crap about the franchise. I love it, man. So thank you so much. I'm excited to be on, bro.
Awesome, man. Now, first thing I have to tell you, and I have to just bring it up, is I love your intro because I was a huge fan of the artist formerly known as Krispy Kreme, Froggy Fresh. So, when I heard that song, I was like, why does this song sound so freaking familiar? And I remembered the music video and I remember everything. So if you guys haven't checked that music video out and you're a Power Rangers fan, you're going to freaking love it. It's, dude, I don't even know where's that guy at right now?
Dude, he's still making some funny songs, but he switched it up where he's no longer rapping. He's doing some piano comedic stuff. And dude, if you haven't checked out that is hilarious. I think his name is Tyler Cassidy. He just went back to his original name.
Nice.
Hilarious, bro. I'll have to send you some of that. But yeah, for all the fans out there, if you like a Power Rangers hip hop song with a Power Rangers story, go check out Street Rangers 2. Froggy Fresh, that is a banger.
Yes.
I take 7-8 seconds of that for copyright purposes and throw it in the beginning real quick.
Yeah.
Someone told me that one day and I was like, wait, you can? Because I got a perfect song for my show.
Yeah, it's freaking perfect. Now, how did you get started with Ranger videos and getting involved with the community?
Oh, man. So I was involved in the community, the actual live community, before I was actually on the internet doing reviews and stuff like that. So it started about 8 years ago. I had this idea, I started going to cons and I got addicted. I got addicted to meeting the actors and just, talking about all the inside stuff that you can't really hear unless you're talking one-on-one with them, right?
Yes.
So fell in love with that idea, and I live in Dubuque, Iowa. I live on the border of Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin. You can be in 3 states in 5 minutes. So I saw an opportunity. It was I know there's a Power Ranger following. I'm going to try to bring a Power Ranger here. And we ended up bringing Steve Cardenas to our local theater for the 20th anniversary of Power Rangers. We did a little Q&A, a little screening of the movie, got to meet the fans, all that kind of stuff. And this was before, dude, I had any of this established. And it's one of those situations where I barely made my money back. I was 21, 22. I was just learning what I was doing. And I remember I polled 200 people of my close friends, hey, if I did this family event, it's going to be a movie. You can meet a Power Ranger, ask him questions. Would you go? And a lot of people were like, yeah, I'd go. About two of the 200 people I asked, about 190 people said, yes, I'm going to go. Well, of those that I asked, I want to say about 10 of those showed up, and Ranger Nation saved me. We got about 20 VIPs and about 40, 50 other Ranger fans showed up, and I didn't lose all my money. But I remember early at a young age learning because before that, we got our start as a hip hop group, and we were touring, doing shows for Twista, Kid Ink, Do or Die, a bunch of different hip hop groups. So I was doing these shows. It was oh, this is so easy. Well, I was going to try to take a pop culture thing and turn it into a show and flip it real quick. Well, I learned real quick, if you want to do Comic-Cons, the first few years, just expect to lose some money. You got to level up. There's levels to the game, just like there is YouTube. So I went a few years just watching the show, and tell you the truth, and it wasn't that I hated Ninja Steel, but I never really gravitated towards that season. And through that time, I watched it. But when I got into YouTube, I started doing a little bit of everything. We're talking music reviews, sports, we're talking pop culture. We're doing a little bit of everything instead of just focusing on one thing, because we're still trying to get our footing, see what works, all that kind of stuff. Well, when Beast Morphers came into the picture, I remember that there was just this wave of people coming up and old Power Ranger YouTubers falling off in a way, if that makes any sense. There was some around that time when Hasbro took over that, like, some people were for it, some people were against it. I'm like, yo, this is my perfect time. I know Power Rangers. I grew up like, I was 2 years old when it came out, so I literally remember like the release and my parents taking me to the store, and there's a bunch of people fighting over these dang little Power Ranger figures. Like, I remember this, bro, just barely bits and pieces, but I felt like I don't know everything about the brand, but at the same time, I've got the passion, and it's here. I'll watch the episodes, and we're going to learn together. Like, what I don't know, the fans will correct me in the comments and let me know, and we'll learn together. Like, I'll give you some information, you'll give me some information. It's not just a give. It's a give tape type thing. And I think over the years we've established, I don't really call it a fan base, I call it a family. Like, we actually like talk, and I have people in my DMs on Facebook that over time are just becoming friends because they're giving me ideas, and we're talking about Power Rangers, and it's a nice little outlet that we've created. So that's kind of how I got into it. There's 1,000 other things. I should mention that on the weekends, I run a successful DJ business. And then I'm a toy collector. I run a little toy merch spot. We got the fan club. We're kind of working everywhere. And then I also run a digital social media like business where we basically take care of local businesses and run their Facebook pages. So like, we're doing 4 or 5 things a day, and it's all started from the fan club and the love of Power Rangers, if you think about it.
I think that's amazing. I saw some pictures of your store and all the Power Ranger toys you got there. So, like, how did you get involved in like selling merchandise and doing stuff like that? Like, was it kind of like a gamble, or like, oh, let's just try it out, sell at some local events and stuff? How that happen?
So the merch thing has always just been like an accessory to us. We started doing cons, and depending on what the con can give us, sometimes we get like a VIP, like a press pass or something to come and interview people. Sometimes the more local ones, they kind of know about us and they want to hook us up. They'll let us do whatever we want, and they'll give us a table. So like and when you got a table, you got to have stuff to sell, right? You know, when you're at these events, don't get me wrong. I do this because I love it. I love talking to people. It's so much fun to talk about Power Rangers and have an outlet to do this. But at the same time, to keep doing this, we got to make some money at the same time. So like it all depends. Like, great example, when we go to C2E2, which is basically like your Midwest New York Comic-Con. It's in Chicago for all the fans who don't know what C2E2 is. When we go there, we're not usually getting a table because there's too much going on. We need to get panels, we need to get interviews, we need to do all that fun stuff. So we're not going to be like stranded at a table. But at our more local cons, I like to have myself a table. We can kind of talk with the local people we know, or tell people locally to come follow a channel that's actually on the rise. We're not the biggest, we're not the best, but we're learning, and come learn with us, because that's one of the things here with us. We're not the best by any means, and we do give flowers. Like I make a bunch of videos giving credit to some of the other bigger YouTubers, because that's what it's about, man. Yeah. I know if I were to quit today, no one could really say I never appreciated anybody, because I get it. And there's people that have set things up for me that I could even have this platform, and you guys even give a crap about what I'm saying.
Like I told you earlier, I was just going through some videos, some reaction videos, and I came across yours, and I loved your take on a lot of things. Albeit maybe a little biased because I felt like we shared the kind of same type of energy and same type of logic behind everything. Now, going in talking about Power Rangers, how do you feel about the direction that they're going right now?
I actually am a big fan of what they're doing. I know that there's a lot of people that are emotionally attached with the way that it used to be in the 90s, early 2000s. But the thing is, just like with anything, even with money, from entertainment to music, everything is shifting into a new direction, and that's digital. And for us to still have Power Rangers in 20 years, we have to start moving in that direction. And Hasbro, I think, has done a good job. The only thing that I've really given any crap to for Hasbro has been more about like the release of the Dino Fury toys, how that's been super underwhelming.
Yep.
But when it comes to production and the show and everything else they're giving us, I really can't complain because they're trying. I was always told by a coach, I don't care if you win by 50 or you lose by 50. If you're out there actually trying, that's all I care about. Like, I don't care if no one comes to your concert. Were you out there putting up the flyers? Were you sharing it? Were you passing out cards? Did you put in the effort? And I feel like Hasbro's actually putting in the effort on this one.
Yeah.
What I love is the other brands that they have, they fall in love with them, like Transformers and My Little Pony and G.I. Joe, and they really try to give the fans of those brands what they want. Hasbro actually listens to their fans, and Bandai and Saban, I felt like because they weren't one, there was always some type of divide on something. If everyone's all working together under one company, under one umbrella, I feel like it's a lot easier.
Yeah. Hasbro is definitely listening to the fans. I don't know if you know, but the brand is actually watching all these YouTube videos, all these YouTube channels, and like just getting their input on everything, and it helps kind of direct the direction that they want to go in the future. One thing that always comes up is post Dino Fury. What, in your opinion, what would be the best approach? Would adapting another season while making decisions be a good idea, or would you rather have a gap and then maybe they come hard the next year with something brand new and something strong?
Okay, so this is all depending on what do we have done for an idea of this Rangerverse idea we're doing on Netflix, right?
Yeah.
So there's this talk that there's going to be this movie, there's going to be this show, it's going to be all in one universe. How far are we on that? That's kind of the question, because that decides everything. If that's ready to go and we can cast some actors and get it going, then dude, 2023, the 30th anniversary, could be a great year for Power Rangers. And I think that if you can get all your ducks in a row, I think the 30th year anniversary could be huge. And I don't want to compare it to Pokemon, but the 25th anniversary Pokemon was so big, they were doing crazy stuff. So I would be ready to just give everything you can on the 30th anniversary. So if you're not able to get that out, so maybe you're like, okay, 2023 is not going to happen, we'll do that 2024, 2025, we'll have a series and a movie, right? Something like that. Well, then you're going to have to give us something pretty good, because it is the end. So if it's the anniversary season, you give us one last Sentai-based season. I think it would be Zyuohger. I always mess it up, but kill me in the comments about that one. You do that, and then you bring back an awesome, like, Wild Force, Jungle Fury team up, something the fans haven't seen before. Like, you do something that really, like holds. Like, even after that season, people will still go back and be like, yeah, that episode's dope. It's kind of like Once a Ranger with Operation Overdrive. So many people hate on the theme song, the show, the characters, but Once a Ranger's cool though. Like it's one of those where at the end of the day, I think that they could give us that one last hurrah season if they wanted to. And I've always been a fan. If you're not going to give us the movie and everything else, then hit us with something animated. You got 2 years. Hit us with a little animation. And I believe that they could do it 1,001 ways. I have a 12-year-old and I have a 2-year-old. So I get to watch a little bit of everything at this stage, right? Yeah. So I believe that there should be an animated show that is a little bit older, maybe based on the comic books for Boom, Shatter Grid, all that fun stuff. But I'm a firm believer that Power Rangers would work so well as like a rescue bots, like that new Spidey and His Amazing Friends on Disney, PJ Masks. Like I'm telling you, like you gotta groom the next generation. And what worked for us is not going to work. I'm telling you, that would be a huge bonus for Power Rangers if you could have a preschool show, like a in the middle show, and then like an adult show, like 3 different shows. I mean, Transformers does it.
Yep. I mean, you got like even Jurassic World animated shows. You got, Fast and Furious animated shows, all kind of within the same umbrella of it, with Hasbro. So I mean, like, as you know, like with this timeline, on this timeline, the previous season, they were already like in the process of casting and doing all that. Yeah. So not hearing any of that and not seeing any of that, wheel turning, it got me like questioning, maybe they are starting a new direction. So as you know, like the same person that we heard the news about the toy split is also the same person that told us that Zoodra is a possibility on the table. It's still up in the air. Simon Bennett still, he doesn't know anything either. So it's for Power Ranger fans, I think it's safe to say that we just gotta be patient. We gotta trust in Hasbro and trust that they know what they're doing. For you, with Power Ranger actors, what has been your most memorable interaction?
Oh man, I don't know. Feel like the first time that I met any Power Ranger actor probably had like the biggest effect on me. It was almost like a nostalgia high, if you will. Like it was like, like brought up like feelings and things you haven't just thought about since you're a little kid, and you're just like, oh my God, like you're here. I used to watch you. So the first time I ever met a Power Rangers celebrity anything was Jason David Frank. I want to say it was like 2012, 2013 era. I know it was that because my son was only 3 or 4 at the time, and he's 12 now, so it was a while ago. But he had this karate class, like it was like his little segment that he did instead of a panel that week. He did like a karate class, and my son got to be in it, and he was putting his clips on Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that. And I just remember how cool that all was and thinking, I could do this. So then I brought Steve Cardenas here, and that led to another super cool thing, man. Like just to have a Power Ranger chilling in your house, bro, like that was legit. Like I can't lie. There were some things that, I was younger and I didn't fully get what I know now or have something established what I know now. I felt like if we were to bring Steve now, it would be a lot bigger because we actually have a Power Ranger following now, right? And not even besides that, but bringing him here was so cool. And then a few years went by, we started to get into Comic-Cons, and one of the coolest ones I ever met, which is not in the Power Ranger brand, but I thought was still pretty cool. Do you remember Christy Carlson Romano?
Oh yeah, from Even
Stevens. She was super cool. We got to meet her, and that was this was about 5 years ago, about 4.5, 5 years ago when we started this journey. And this was like when I first started to get shout outs and all that cool stuff. And I remember I went up to her little manager lady and asked if I could get a little video shout out before people even were doing video shout outs, Mm-hmm. And she was like, nah. So I walk up there and I'm just like, hey, could I get an autograph? I'll pay for your autograph. She's like, oh yeah. And I was like, hey, by the way, is there any way I could get like a little video shout out if I pay for a picture? She's like, oh yeah. Go ahead, get in here. I'll give you the picture. I'll give you the autograph, all for a cheap price. I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. And the lady just looked at me, and that was the first moment I realized that like it's all about what the artist wants and how they're feeling. Because I've been told no so many times, but I never get mad because that's the name of the game. They're people just like us, man. They might have some stuff going on that really I can't talk right now, but get me next week. And a lot of people are cool about like, yo, if I can't do it today or this week, try me in a few weeks and then we'll get it in. So there's certain things where I don't know. I love the way Power Rangers is going as a brand, and I also just love meeting people, especially the celebrities, and asking them about it. And the last few times when we met Austin St. John, we actually got to interview him one time. That was probably my favorite interview, even though I was shaking the whole time because it was like a childhood hero. It was so much fun. And hearing him talk about Hasbro and say how he is hopeful and how they could go so many different directions, it really made me hopeful. And that's why I am a certain way about this brand, because that's what I'm hearing from the other people. They're telling it to me themselves, like it's in the right direction.
Yeah.
So and then who was the last Power Ranger? Oh, we just interviewed Sandy Sellner, who played Alpha 5 a few months ago in Minnesota. That was really cool.
She's actually from my hometown here where I live.
No way.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
And that she was awesome to meet. Her and Walter Jones were there, and Walter was really cool too. He was out there dancing and stuff. He didn't give us an interview. We don't give him a hard time. You know, it is what it is. So then what was it? C2E2 of 2020, we met Jason Font, and that was so much fun getting to talk with him, like, because there were some things I didn't know that he told me like a few years ago about like how he originally auditioned for like Lost Galaxy, and you know he could have been somebody else, you know, or he auditioned for Lightspeed Rescue too, so he could have been Carter. Like,
yeah,
it's fun, man. Like you learn so much stuff. So I don't know if I have a favorite one. I feel like I have all different parts of them that have taught me something about myself and how to give a proper interview, because I'm out here, man. I'm just doing this on passion and soul. I don't have any training. If I want to learn something, I go to YouTube.
Yep, exactly. You can get a freaking degree on YouTube, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy. Now, like, what's your dream? What is your dream thing that Power Rangers could do to kind of just like push them over the top and put them in the same category as Transformers or the MCU, or you know, what would be the best for you? What would be the best thing that they could do to elevate them to that next step?
All right, so it's going to be like a kind of couple answer thing here. So I did a video a couple weeks ago, and I talked about the 3 main reasons why, in my head, why I thought that the 2017 movie I won't say it failed, but it definitely underperformed, okay? So I believe one of the main reasons was everyone can pretty much agree that there wasn't enough action, especially when it starts off with that scene with Zordon and the Green Rita Ranger right away, like so cool. And then we go like a whole hour without anything. And then the second point that I thought was key was they lost that happy-go-lucky vibe of Power Rangers, and it was super dark, and everyone just hated Angel Grove, and they were just kind of delinquents, and they didn't really have no purpose. They weren't teenagers with attitude. They weren't, you know, there was just a whole thing here where there was no happy vibe. There wasn't a lot of comedy. Like when I think of Power Rangers, I'm thinking like New Zealand or California, sunny, everyone's dancing, working out, training, trying to better themselves. I didn't get those vibes. So like when you try to change a whole way that, you know, people have thought of something, you might get a little backlash. And I wasn't a hater on this. Now, the other thing that I think, those are 2 big things for Hasbro, is I think action, get to the action, keep the happy-go-lucky Power Ranger vibes, put some comedy in there, like but some good comedy. Maybe not all this slapstick comedy, but make us laugh, baby. Yeah. And then the third one that I think is important that we don't realize is an important factor is our soundtrack. And we have to, if we're going to do a movie, we need to have some good musicians on this. If we're going to release a movie, I want to have an actual artist. I thought that the Power Rangers 2017 soundtrack was a huge opportunity missed. When I'm looking at the artists on here, they didn't pay anybody. The one rapper they had was Vince Staples, who I love Vince Staples. But at the end of the day, he's like in the middle of like followers and everything. No one really knows who Vince Staples is. You could have like all of the good soundtracks help these movies. Like, do you remember the Suicide Squad back, 2013, 2014? People hated that movie, but everyone loved the soundtrack and it helped sell it. You know, like if you get some big name rappers, singers, pop stars, rock bands, everything, that's how you sell it. And Transformers has had a pretty good run with some good soundtracks, you know? So I at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of factors that make a good movie. And Power Rangers, the 2017 movie, was not bad, but I feel like they got away from some things that made Power Rangers good and made it different, because people like Power Rangers because it wasn't so dark. It was kind of fun and a little bit comedic and a little bit, you know, a little bit dumb at times, but we liked it. You know, like everybody watches Family Guy, and that's the dumbest comedy, you know, Power Rangers, I won't say was like the Family Guy of that, but also it wasn't the most serious. It wasn't Spider-Man. It wasn't Batman, the animated series. It was Power Rangers. It was fun. It was action. It was momentum. Like you watch this and you hear the guitars and you're just like, you're punching the air and you're feeling good about life.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely, some of the things that I hope that they do, especially under Hasbro and Paramount and all that. I feel like you know there might be a glimmering, shining light for the brand.
And here's my question: maybe you know this because you just brought up Paramount. Is Paramount still involved with the Netflix project? Because I heard that the movie's just going to Netflix, right?
Yeah, I think Netflix could be hosting all of that stuff, but I think there might be a little bit of funding from Paramount also. So who knows? You know, it's weird. They're under that the E1 type production company, and then Netflix is just going to be you know, the place where they're going to be releasing it. You know, honestly, honestly, it's for me. I think it's still. They got the home, they got everything, but they're like, as far as what they're gonna put on it, I think they're still thinking about it, what could work, because they don't want another. I mean, I personally enjoyed some of it, but they don't want another fiasco like they did with the 2017 movie where they barely got their money back. So I think that they're really, you know, holding and checking what does work in Hollywood and with these types of properties. They tried their thing out with G.I. Joe and it kind of underperformed a little bit. So like, okay, maybe that's not the direction we go. I really think that, you know, they're really playing it safe, and I'm just interested to see what type of content they give us, you know, to hold us off for a little bit.
Okay, and I actually agree with that. For all the fans that are complaining about they're gonna push it back, think of this like a video game that comes out, my friends, that you think it's gonna drop in May, but then they push it back to the fall or early the next year. And really, as long as the game is good when it comes out, nobody cares.
Yep, Cyberpunk. You don't want another Cyberpunk.
Oh my gosh, yes. There's so many games like that.
Yeah.
They're forced out. That's why those dates suck. When there's an actual like standard release date that it has to be met on this date, the movie might not be that good unless they got a head start on it, or the video game might not be that good. You know, it's over time. If you give more creative control to the creator, they're going to be able to give you more out of your product, especially more time, because in video games, time is everything. If you give me more time, I can make more stuff, right? It's not like, I mean, I've never created a video game, but it would be like with anything, like compared to construction. You give me more time, I can build you more buildings. Well, Same thing.
Yeah. Now, Dan, thank you so much for, spending time and talking to us about the fandom. And I love how enthusiastic you are about it. And, I love your take on it. And I'm a huge fan of your content and your YouTube channel. Tell the fans where everyone can find you at.
Hey guys, if you want to have a good time with me, come on over here to the fan club, TFC 563 or the fan club on Facebook. We're also on YouTube, the fan club. We're also on Instagram, TFC 563. Pretty much just type in the fan club on Google and we'll probably come up. We love the support and thank you guys for having me. It's always a good time, man. Thank you.
And we definitely want to have you back once we get up in our new studio. We'll probably have you on, on the live stream, get to interact with some of the fans. Dude, honestly, if you guys haven't checked out his YouTube channel yet, it's one of the most unique takes on everything. It's a different take than you get with a lot of the Power Ranger YouTube, content. And you're coming out with different videos, not just anything that's current. You got a lot of stuff that you're looking back at certain things, and I think that's really, really amazing, and it's interesting for fans to see because sometimes we forget about the history of where Power Rangers came from.
Oh yeah, I appreciate all the fans. They give me a lot of these ideas, and we've never stuck to just one concept. The fan club has been just a little bit of everything. So that gives us a little bit of freedom to kind of, I guess we can do that type of video today. Or tomorrow we'll talk about Beetleborgs. The next day we'll do some basketball. It's kind of fun where we don't necessarily have to tie ourselves down, but the fans always come back and we give them enough content where there's always going to be something for somebody.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for your time, sir. And, this isn't the last time you're going to see him. We're going to have him on many, many, many times if he's willing.
Let's go. Oh, yeah.
I can't do this on my own, because things ain't always sweet when you out here in these streets. But my morpher, when it morphed, I made a fake one.
For the first time ever, your boy Braz at the fan club gets to break some news because the news happened on my channel on one of my videos. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the first time I can break something. I don't have all the details in the world, but Simon Bennett is staying on with Power Rangers in some way. So today I made a video talking about, will Simon Bennett remain with Power Rangers? What about the kids' content? We know we got Jonathan Entwistle jumping on this. We know we have a new showrunner, but we don't know what our boy Simon was playing in this. And you know me, I love Simon Bennett. I think he's one of the Ranger GOATs. He helped keep this brand alive. He's a genius. He's a smart dude. And today he commented on my video and said, can't say anymore, but I am still working on Power Rangers and have not been replaced. And that puts a giant smile on my face, guys. If you know me, you know I love Simon Bennett. The Power Rangers were in a dark time just a few years ago, and Simon Bennett made sure that the ship got home safely. It's in a better direction and a better place because of Simon, and I'm so glad not to see him leave. It would have made me sad. Does that mean he's working on the 30th anniversary next year? Does that mean that this kid content is still going to be creating Sentai adaptations? I do not know. But in the comments, someone did ask, what do you think about the future original independent seasons? And Simon said, I don't know anything about them, but more Power Rangers can only be a good thing, right? A lot of people were saying, oh, we were scared you were going to get replaced. And someone even asked, is this the real Simon Bennett? He said it was the last time I checked. And yeah, it's Simon Bennett. It's real. He's been watching our videos. He's been checking us out. And that's cool because it shows that he cares about what the fans think. He listens. He wants to know how to improve the show. And that's why he's on YouTube checking out what the fans are saying. Shout out Simon. Let's get into the comments. J1 says, Simon is awesome. I really hope he stays with the franchise. Now, if we get new people, let's hope they're actually Power Rangers fans or at least care about the brand and only want to keep the franchise going. Yeah, I agree 100%. I said that with my last video when they casted Jenny. I said, yo, I hope that she grew up watching Power Rangers at some capacity, because it goes a long way when the fans of the show actually watch the show and then help create it. You can tell when a project comes out, a reboot of a show, and the director never watched the original show or read the book. You can tell real quick. John B says, when I watched that podcast of what Simon Bennett said, that he likes Power Rangers RPM, which I agree, it's one of my favorite seasons of all time. To me, RPM is better than Mighty Morphin. You get my respect for saying that, Simon Bennett. Oh yeah, hey, RPM is good, and to each his own. Honestly, RPM is a probably better season than MMPR. However, MMPR is way more classic. People feel more of a certain type of way. Like, the feeling of watching that show as a kid is so nostalgic that I might choose MMPR over RPM. But as just a show, RPM is pretty sweet, man. I actually love that. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. You're the real MVPs and the reason why we do this. Shout out Simon Bennett. He is staying on with Power Rangers. He has not been replaced. That's all we know. He doesn't know anything about the original independent seasons, but he did say more Power Rangers can only be a good thing, right? I'm excited. Shout out the fans out there. You're the reason why we even do this in the first place. You're the best. Thank you guys, and we'll talk to you next time. Peace. A huge shout out to our Gold Ranger member, Willie Maloney. Sign up today. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this content, you know what to do. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. You can also become a member. Please join the fan club support team right now. We have a Blue Ranger power-up and a Gold Ranger power-up. This is an awesome way to talk with the fans. Join a fan club official chat group. You can also be featured in our videos. At the end of the videos, I will shout you out. That's if you get the Gold Ranger power-up membership. Go check it out. Go support the
2, 1. We just got counted down and we are back. Yo! How was that interview, Jesser? That was getting to know Dan a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, right after you had his little fan theory, and you could really tell like his editing skills are picking up, and he's really like.
And he does put the time and effort into those fan theories. Speaking of which, his fan theory this week was based around Simon Bennett. I feel like this week's theme of the show is Power Rangers showrunners. From Simon Bennett to Jenny Klein, we got it all taken care of. But Simon Bennett's the current Power Ranger showrunner with Dino Fury, which I think is a fantastic season. Would you guys agree so far?
Oh, yeah. I love Simon's work. Because back in the day, he did a couple of episodes for like Beast Morphers and Ninja Steel. And now that Hasbro's in control of Dino Fury, you can see that he doesn't have the Saban strings attached to him anymore, so he can kind of do whatever he wants with the show. And it's paying off. It's doing really well.
Yeah.
What do you think, Heirloom, or Mark, we shall call you, what do you think Simon brings to Dino Fury that maybe another showrunner possibly didn't have the opportunity to, or hasn't done prior to him?
I think callbacks. Like, I mean, at the very beginning, Morphing Masters, where you only hear them mentioned in Mighty Morphing for like maybe 2 episodes, very briefly. The fact is that they've brought in J-Borg, which is from Overdrive's like Hartfield or whatever it is.
Yeah, Hartfield Company.
Yeah, Hartfield Company. So you're seeing all these like massive callbacks, and even to the point where when people have asked questions like, "Oh, who created the Nexus Prism? Who's did this? Who did that?" And it's like, "Oh, the Morphing Masters," and they link everything together. And no other showrunners ever done that I've seen. Where even if I think they've been too scared, and I feel like they were like, "Oh, Saban's like said you can't do that," where they've just gone, "We're going to do it anyway." So I think that's some of the biggest key, and there's nice storytelling as well.
Nice.
Chat, I want to know, what do you guys like about Simon Bennett's run so far on Power Rangers Dino Fury? I mean, we still have a little bit more to come. We got that super chat feature in here. That one specifically for Ash. Staying up super late in Australia right now. Thomas DeCoste asks, will the Jenny Klein series debut in 2023? You know what? That's a great question, and one question we will definitely get to on the Ranger Nation discussion part of this. So Thomas DeCoste, thank you so much for the super chat. But I'll give you a short answer to that. Do I think that the series will debut in 2023? Short answer to that is no, I do not. But we will answer that in full in the Ranger Nation discussion. But before we get into that, though, I want to hear what you guys have to think about Simon Bennett. Jezzer, Simon Bennett, he's been on the show now for a couple of years. What are some of the things that you're liking that he's bringing to the table, Power Rangers, so far?
I like his how open he is with the fandom, and how much care and how much effort he puts into it to appease the fandom, despite some of the fandom feeling entitled to things that they don't necessarily should feel entitled to. I like that. I think that that respect that he has is great, and I think that I'm hoping that there is a space for him in the new Power Ranger cinematic universe.
Yeah, one thing I will say is that he's taking a really concerted effort to really deep dive Power Rangers lore, Power Rangers history, and connect it all together. And even cooler is when we see, and like you guys said, the Morphin Masters, right? We got them kind of introduced in the comics. I mean, we got them introduced way back when in Mighty Morphin, but in the comics, we started getting their story fleshed out a little bit. But we got to see them live action, which was episode 1, season 1 of Dino Fury, which I think personally kind of sets the tone for what we're getting with Simon Bennett. And what I mean by that is, what I love right now, what we're getting as Power Ranger fans with Power Rangers Dino Fury. But I'm sure you guys don't want to hear me talk about Simon Bennett. I'm sure you guys love Simon Bennett as well. But let's hear from Simon Bennett himself.
Let's hear from him.
Simon Bennett, Power Rangers Dino Fury Season 2 is currently airing on Netflix. At least part 1 is. We're going to have to wait just a little bit longer for part 2, and I can't wait. Season 2 ended on such a high note for me. It hit every single episode. So good, Simon. How you doing, sir?
I'm very good, thank you. I can't wait for the last episodes to be available either, because I really want to see what fans of the show think of them.
Oh, I can't wait. Now, this season, you've worked previously on Beast Morphers, and Beast Morphers leaned a lot into the lore of Power Rangers. And this season, we see some hints of that with the Morphin Masters and a few other things. But did you want Dino Fury to be more of a standalone story, or were you always trying to ingrain it with the lore of Power Rangers?
I think it's important that the show acknowledges that there is a wider world than simply the particular team that happens to be at the center of that season.
Right.
And I think with Beast Morphers, and more so in Dino Fury, we have worked hard to integrate all the various seasons, which were very much made as their own adaptations without necessarily any kind of consistent lore from season to season.
Sure.
And just because people's brains work like this, viewers have tried to make connections and said, well, if this happened then that must have happened later, and these teams were probably coexisting at the same time, and that one has to be in a completely different universe, but only that one. All those kinds of discussions and arguments that go on, which are fun. But from our point of view, and I think it happened in Beast Morphers, and it was to do with the Ranger Vault and the fact that Grid Battle Force had connections with other Power Ranger teams, and it very much established clearly that the other teams coexisted, and that there were ways of traveling between and communicating between different dimensions. Like the RPM world obviously was a different dimension because it was a different Corinth was quite different to the Earth, that all that stuff. And in another team, Dino Charge, dinosaurs still existed, so that had to be a different dimension. But most of the shows took place in the prime universe of Power Rangers, and who knows what the future may hold in terms of attempts to iron all this out, or throw it all out and start again from scratch. Who knows? But I do know that for us, we were trying to have some kind of consistent logic that would make sense to the super fans of the show who'd followed it since the beginning. And the Morphin Masters were an important way of trying to explain really a lot of the apparently unrelated and inconsistent ways in which various teams came to be Power Rangers or get their powers. And it was to say that, okay, you've got the Morphin grid here, you've got Ranger teams scattered all over the place, and then you've got this body of beings who actually have a relationship between the grid and the various Ranger teams and are significant in the teams achieving their powers and becoming Power Rangers. I can tease the fact that that story isn't over yet. So if people enjoy the Morphin Masters lore, there's a big dump of that still to come in the remaining 11 episodes.
I was just going to say, as soon as you introduced the Morphin Masters in episode 1, like I knew we were in for a different Power Rangers. You know what I mean? Like it just felt like you dug that extra layer deeper for specifically the fan base that's me. That was like, yep, this one's for you guys. And I honestly, that does not go unappreciated. So thank you for that.
Well, I have to give credit to Becca Barnes and Alwyn Dale for a lot of this, because they know Power Rangers as well as probably the most dedicated super fan, and they care deeply about the show and not upsetting the fan base. And a lot of the things they've had to do for various political reasons historically has gone against the grain for them. So I think now for all of us, there's a sense of we're being trusted with the franchise to actually tell the kinds of stories that we feel the fan base deserve and would like to see. It's not perfect, it never will be perfect, but we're doing our best to honor the fans of the show.
You know, but it's those steps that are taken, and it doesn't go unnoticed. You like as a fan, you literally see the effort that's going in and trying to dig into that lore. And for that, I'm appreciative. As a longtime fan, there's a lot of payoff there, especially watching Dino Fury. There's certain scenes like Lord Zed. It's a great callback to my childhood. And I just kind of like freaked out. And I was like, wait a minute, that's Lord Zed, right? And you get these glimpses, because I tried starting my kid in Mighty Morphin. She was not having it. And it wasn't until Dino Fury where she was completely invested into the show. So credit to you guys. Now, one of the coolest things that you guys did with this season is continue the world building with RAFCON. Was there any discussion having Ion and Zato from an already established planet in Power Rangers history prior to settling on RAFCON?
There was some discussion, but we decided to make it RAFCON because of the backstory that we wanted to go into quite deeply within the show. And as soon as you tie it to a pre-existing planet or world, then you actually have to fit the story within what is known about that particular world or system. So we wanted a fresh start with RAFCON. There was definitely discussion about some of the other known Power Rangers universe worlds and whether they might have come from there, but because of the history of the Sporix and the fact the planet was ravaged, and the fact there is more still to be discovered about RAFCON in episodes yet to be viewed, we wanted to keep it original.
You know, one thing that I was surprised we didn't see in season 2, part 1, was another appearance by Lord Zed. If one were to say what Lord Zed would be up to currently in the Power Ranger universe, what would Lord Zed be?
I think Lord Zed is probably licking his wounds and planning to do maximum mayhem.
I like that. Now, is there any chance that we're going to be able to get a follow-up on Mick? Because we did see him in season 1, and we don't know quite where he went off to. But is there any follow-up on where we can find Mick?
He went off in a space taxi. He was going to open a steak restaurant somewhere in the Lion Galaxy, I think. So that's probably what he's doing. And I can't say anything else in terms of plot details of the remaining episodes. But I will say that we love Mick, and that Kelson Henderson has been an important and loyal part of the show for many, many seasons now in one form or another.
I love that. Now, one of the most unique things you've done as a producer is open up this line of communication between you and the fandom, especially on social media. What are some of the positive decisions being so, I guess, right to the fan base? You're direct right there with your Twitter. What are some of the positives about that?
I think the positives are that I can hear what the common complaints are about the show and assess those and think about whether, you know, not do I take those notes and integrate them in the show, but what is behind those comments, and is it something that is worth influencing, and can I incorporate those thoughts in terms of influencing the show? But also I think that two-way communication makes the adult fans of the show feel listened to and valued, and because they are important, and that online discussion and continuation of the exploration of the worlds of Power Rangers and the love of the characters and the love of the franchise is so important to its ongoing success, that the people who keep it alive and dedicate, you know, many hours of their lives and many dollars of their income to supporting the franchise should be included in the larger world that is the Power Rangers franchise. I've always, well, ever since the internet became a relevant player, had a social media presence in terms of the shows I'm working on. And I used to live tweet while shows that I had produced or directed were being broadcast on television, because I enjoyed the direct relationship with the people who were watching it. And coming from a theatre background, one of the things I love about theatre is if you're sitting in the auditorium watching the audience watch a play that I've directed, you can feel immediately what's working, what isn't, what is the level of engagement between the audience and what's happening on stage, when are they laughing, when are they getting fidgety, you know, all that feedback is really important. But with screen work, because it's an artifact that you make in advance and then just send out into the ether, you don't tend to get that learning experience or that direct feedback, and ratings are only a tiny part of it. So what the online engagement does provide is a tangible and ongoing set of measures for me as to whether what the intentions behind what we're doing are, and whether they're working or not, or whether they're being misread, or the audience are not following our plans. Because what you do as a program maker is you try and manipulate the audience from moment to moment to moment. You want them to be engaged, you want them to be surprised, you want them to be appalled, you want them to be angry, you want them to be full of laughter, you want them to be enthusiastic, and you're playing that piece of music which is about the audience's engagement.
Right.
And listening to the feedback tells me whether what we're doing is working or not. And so I see that as quite important. But there are obviously downsides of that engagement too. And I had to back away a bit because I was just getting harangued online by people obsessively wanting to know whether their favorite Sentai season was going to be adapted or not, and why not, you know, quite
I saw this tweet
angry. Yeah, so I just had to say, look, I can't deal with this. I was getting hundreds and hundreds of tweets a day, and I'm happy to engage in, you know, intelligent conversation and, you know, answer any questions that I'm allowed to answer, and that isn't a spoiler and isn't sort of a breach of contract and is within my ability to answer. I don't mind that at all if I've got time. But the demands and the sense of aggressive entitlement that was coming through in some of those tweets, it got to be too much, really.
I can imagine. Now, by the way, eventually at some point, I feel like I would love to do a live watch along with you, mainly as like a DVD, like an audio commentary, because you have such a unique insight into the lens of Power Rangers that I haven't seen explored through anybody else yet. So I think that's your vision of Power Rangers is so fascinating and immersive. I absolutely love it. Now, upon taking the task to run the Power Ranger franchise, were there any interesting story arcs from past seasons that you loved or drew inspiration from for Dino Fury? Or did you take any inspiration from any other storyline from another medium?
No, basically. I think that, you know, each season we start from scratch. What is the world? What is the premise? What are the themes? What are the ideas? Who are these characters? What is the big story? What are the character stories? While being influenced by the Sentai footage that we're working with. So I think if we say, let's copy this or let's do that story again, then what you're doing is secondhand. And it's much more interesting from a creative point of view to try and stay fresh. I do think, though, after nearly 30 years of Power Rangers, it's inevitable that there's a certain amount of repetition, particularly when the formula of what makes a Power Rangers episode has been so prescriptive in the past. So they're still going to fight rubber monsters. There's not much you can do about that. So the actual Ranger stories tend to be the more simplistic ones. We've tried to make the villain stories more interesting in Dino Fury with Tarek and Centaura. So there are more gray areas, and it's less, I want to conquer the universe, and I want to save my wife. Now that's an interesting motivation for doing bad things.
Super refreshing, yeah.
And also, marital rift between the voids. Where's that going to end up? Those kinds of things are fun and interesting and fresh, I think, for this show.
Oh yeah.
And also the character arcs. Try. Although in a show like this, you do deal with archetypes in a sense, but trying to come up with satisfying long-term arcs that we may not necessarily have seen before on Power Rangers, but are going to make the fans of each particular character feel that their investment in that character has been worthwhile because they've got something rewarding or fresh or new or a bit of insight out of it. So no, I would say that we try not to copy other things. We may reference, other movies or other TV shows or Shakespeare in our discussion as we're talking about particular details, but we certainly wouldn't try and lift a story from somewhere else. Yeah.
Sure. Now, one of the most intriguing things about this season is, like Beast Morphers, we're given human antagonists to face off with the Power Rangers. And some might even say anti-heroes to an extent. But is it harder or easier to include characters like that in your story?
It's more interesting. I think it's easier just to have, a monster who wants to conquer the galaxy or wants to steal the power coins or wants to destroy the Rangers, because that's a one-note monster and you know what you're getting. I think having characters that are more nuanced with more layers to them makes the storytelling more interesting from a writing point of view, but also I think from an audience point of view, because it's more surprising and less predictable. So yeah, there's a lot more to be unraveled with Void Knight and Void King, as he now is, and Void Queen, and where that story is going to go, and what their backstory is. Why does Centaura want to have revenge on humankind? That's very deliberately set up as a key dramatic question, which will be answered in the final 11. So yeah, it's fun, and it is all connected too with eking out rationing audience engagement across 44 episodes. So you're carefully placing key reveals and plot points in order to generate maximum intrigue.
I love that. I love that. Now, Ranger Liz asks, a while back you mentioned that you got the job because it was suggested by a friend. What made that friend think, wow, giant monsters and explosions, this guy would be perfect? By the way, she also adds, the friend was right, by the way. You're doing a fantastic job. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, thank you, Ranger Liz. That's really nice to hear. That person was an assistant director on another production who had worked on Power Rangers in that assistant director role. And I think what she was talking about was the fact that I have a capacity of dealing with large-scale logistics without getting fazed by them in order to achieve a clear creative goal. That's what I've always done. My theatre productions particularly have tended to be big shows with large casts and complicated theatrical effects. And I love the technology of storytelling in theatre. And in a way, in screen, it doesn't get any more technical than Power Rangers in terms of the action, the visual effects, the multiple units, the meshing of Japanese footage with original footage, the speed with which you have to work, the level of detail that has to go into the planning, all those kinds of things. Being able to multitask intensely while hanging on to a very clear vision, and bringing everyone else along for the ride, making sure that all the hundreds of people that you're collaborating with and all the many, many different departments all have a shared understanding of what it is you're trying to achieve and what's important. So that's something that I think I'm known for in all my work, from theater through television, film, into Power Rangers. And I suspect that's what that person meant when she suggested I put my name forward for Power Rangers, which I did, and I didn't get the gig. So that was a few years ago now. I think that probably would have been for might have been Dino Charge.
Dino Charge?
Might have been Dino Charge, or even the season before that. Was it RPM? I can't remember what
before Dino Charge, I think would have been Megaforce.
Might have been Megaforce. Anyway, so that particular season, I think, was employing mainly not New Zealand directors. So I didn't even get an interview for that. But then I just put myself forward again a few years later, and Chip Lynn wanted to meet me, and we hit it off, and I got my first gig on Ninja Steel, which was a very steep learning curve, because there's nothing quite like it from a directing perspective. Power Rangers is its own unique beast.
Yeah.
But I loved it, and I took to it because the things I'm good at in other medium apply directly to Power Rangers. So even though it was unique and a learning experience for me, the tools I was working with, I understood and I got. And also the thing with Power Rangers that's a lot of fun from a directing or production point of view is you're having to be very inventive all the time.
Sure.
You read the stuff in a script that reads like an animated slapstick cartoon sequence, and you think, how on earth are we going to make this happen in real life in half a day on set? So it requires ingenuity and thinking outside the curve a little bit, as well as collaboration with some very smart and creative people. So I enjoy it, love it.
From top to bottom, I think Power Rangers is one of the most fascinating shows to get made, because not only do these actors go through this unique boot camp where it really teaches you everything about entertainment, but even you guys as showrunners, directors, you're adapting something from a Japanese show and making it completely either new or fresh, or putting a new. And so you're kind of still handcuffed to a lot of things there. But you guys did such a fantastic job of really making it your own and using your own footage and matching up as best you could the locations, which is a phenomenal job on its own. With that being said, what was one of the most difficult challenges moving in from being a director to a showrunner?
That's a good question. It didn't feel that difficult because I have been a showrunner before on other shows. So it's for me,
it's so unique.
I know it is, but I'd already directed 2 seasons of it, so I knew how the machine worked. And because I was also a creative producer, I could look at the bigger picture from a production point of view. The area that I really had to learn about most, I think, was the post-production visual effects area, because although I've worked on shows with a small amount of visual effects, I have never worked on anything with quite the scale. And the fact that we had a year and a half of post-production after shooting had finished, which I was creatively responsible for, was a lot of fun, and I really liked it. But what I did was, when we wrapped on Beast Morphers, I followed Chip Lynn around, basically ghosting him, shadowing him for a few months. And that really taught me a lot about the extent of the role and all the various aspects which showrunner has to be across and in charge of, and the types of questions that you're going to get asked, and the types of decisions that you have to make many times a day. So I learned a huge amount from Chip. And, I'm working with great people who have been working on the show longer than me in many cases. So they've been generous about filling in the gaps where my knowledge might not be there. And I know to ask questions when I don't know, rather than pretend I do know and just bluff my way through, because that way disaster lies.
Absolutely. Now, I have 2 more questions for you, and we are done. This question is coming at you as a fan. As a fan, look, we're on the precipice of the 30th anniversary of Power Rangers. I believe it's the 23rd longest show of all time. running, which is an incredible feat. But as a fan, what would you like to see in the 30th anniversary for Power Rangers?
I would like to see something that satisfies the other fans, that people watch and go, yes, that is everything and more than I could possibly have wished for. I think that's all I can say, really. If I was a fan, that's what I would like to see for the 30th anniversary.
I mean, we're probably going to get that for Dino Fury's finale as well. The last question I have for you, and this isn't not necessarily because it's weak or anything like that, but if you could go back and redo any of the previous Power Ranger seasons, not because of anybody else that handled it, but just because it's a cool premise, what would that season be?
I actually think it would be Beast Morphers. And I say this because I knew it very well. I was a director right across both seasons, but I wasn't in a position where I could have any influence over the stories and the way in which they were shaped. So I thought that Beast Morphers had a lot of fantastic ingredients. I thought the designs were amazing. I thought the premise was really interesting. I thought the characters had a lot of potential, but it was still very much a product of the old school. This is the way a Power episode has to work. You have to tick all these particular boxes. And I think if some of those mandates were eased and more serial storytelling had been allowed, right, and some of the things that were paid off late in the season had been established more clearly early up in the season, and that the whole reveal of Evox as Venjix or Venjix as Evox, I can't remember which way around it goes, wasn't saved up to the very end, but it was teased and tantalized more. It's really about how you ration story across a season. If every episode has to be self-contained, and you have to have your obligatory comedy beats, and you have to have 2 ground fights and a Megazord fight, and you have to have your moral of the day and the apology scene, then there's not much room left in the episode for anything that's unique.
You got about 23 seconds in there, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But if those rules could be relaxed a bit on Beast Morphers, I think from what I know about it and what I know about the care that went into it, it wasn't lazy, and it wasn't, these shows the writers get a lot of flack for being bad writers. It's not that they're bad writers. It's the things that people find frustrating about the seasons are very often because the writers' hands are tied.
Yeah.
And there are so many gatekeepers, and there are so many cooks saying it has to be this, it has to be that, it has to be this. You can't do this, you can't do that. And I think that if the writers had been given a little bit more trust, Beast Morphers, which was a solid season, could have been a spectacular season.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't agree more. It was a great season, though. It was a great season.
Yes, exactly.
But, adding those little bits of cherries on top. Simon, this is why I like talking to you, man, because you have, like I said, you have this vision of Power Rangers that really aligns with what I think a lot of fans want, what I want. So, you're doing a fantastic job, and congratulations on the GLAAD Award. I got to say that before we wrap this up again, because it's such a historic moment as a Power Ranger fan, this sense of like, wow, this is a really cool moment just all around for the fandom. So I got to say thank you for you and your writing staff and your team and everybody at Hasbro, because it's an amazing show. This Dino Fury's been out of the park. Like I said, you knocked it out of the galaxy. But thank you so much for your time, Simon. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we can do this again.
Absolutely. Nice to talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bennett. That was a lot of fun. Simon Bennett, man, give it up for Simon Bennett. He's a great showrunner for Power Rangers. Fantastic. We also had a couple super chats in there, which we should address. Or we had a super chat in there, right? Let's see. KB Vlog says, "What's your favorite season of Power Rangers?" I'm pretty sure that was for Simon Bennett, but we're going to answer that question for Mr. KB Vlogs. Erlen, let's start with you. What was your favorite season of Power Rangers, my friend?
Zeo. It's a fantastic season.
That is a good one.
Jezzer, what are you going with? What are you going to go with?
Lost Galaxy. I like Lost Galaxy.
Ooh, well, all right. Ash?
Time Force.
Oh, my least favorite season.
And you, Joe?
Time Force. You know what? I'm going to say SPD. SPD emergency. It actually changes between SPD, Zeo, and RPM, but I'm going to say SPD on this fine day, on this beautiful Saturday.
Yeah, mine will change throughout the week as well, depending on how I'm feeling or what clips I find on YouTube and be like, oh, this was a good season.
Yo, we got a dude named Jeffrey Maguire in here from Northern Ireland. Welcome to the show, Jeffrey. We hope you're enjoying. I don't know what time it is out there in Ireland, but that's awesome that you're watching us from Ireland. But let's talk about it, guys. Fan discussion, Ranger Nation discussion of the week. We're going to be talking about the new Power Rangers. Jenny Klein. Let's kick it off. Jenny Klein is going to be taking over as Power Ranger showrunner. We don't know the exact time, but we do know this is going to be part of Jonathan Entwistle's, I guess, newly expanding Power Rangers universe, which seems like it's going to be a completely new timeline, I guess we can call it. Universe, I guess we can say. He did say that there's going to be some familiar faces from the past, but this is going to be something completely new. Let's get your takes on this. First of all, let's also welcome Jenny Klein to Ranger Nation, the Power Ranger fandom. Thank you so much for taking over this franchise. We're excited to see it. But we also, we also love what Simon Bennett's doing, and we'll talk about that and how we think this can all work out. But let's get our initial reactions about Jenny. Aaron, let's start with you.
I'm looking forward to for her to joining. I think from reading what she's done, like Jessica Jones and some of the Marvel stuff, I really like Jessica Jones from like season 1. And so seeing that sort of kind of like bringing in, I think that's going to definitely change Power Rangers, how we're going to see it. And also she looks a lot like that girl from Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, Katie Sackhoff?
That's it. One of my friends pointed that out and I was just like, damn, that's true. She does. But I am happy that she's in there. So I'm looking forward to what's going to happen. If it turns out like Jessica Jones and all that, I'm on board 100%.
Let's back this up for a hot second, because previously in the past, I know that we knew that when Jonathan Entwistle kind of took over, there was going to be a handful of these different Power Ranger type of properties that we were going to be getting. There was rumors of this animation show that was going to be happening. There was rumors about a more, I want to say adult version, but is it a more darker version? I don't know what the right terminology we can use, but an aged up version is something that it looked like we were getting. What else was there, Ash? You had mentioned it off camera for a second.
Animated, I believe. Hasbro said they want to do something animated.
Right.
An animated series.
So let's talk about how this can possibly fit into those plans. Do you think that, I mean, it seems for all intents and purposes, she's brought in to kind of helm whatever's going to be happening going forward on Netflix. Now, one of the questions that we did get in the super chat was, do we think that she's going to be taking over for the 30th anniversary in 2023? Short answer to that, I said earlier, was no, I don't think so. I think Simon Bennett is going to be working on whatever series is going to be shooting in New Zealand, because I do think that when Jenny Klein takes over, I have a strong feeling that the show's going to move somewhere else outside of New Zealand.
LA?
What do you guys think about that?
What do you mean?
I mean, it's a possibility.
From what I've seen is people have talked about going over to Vancouver because, again, it might be cheaper over there or something like that. But that's where a lot of the films are. So if they do decide to say crossover, let's say, because you have, like, in Cloak and Dagger, you have Emma Lahana. So if she's still filming for something over there, it'd be like, hey, you just come across and be in this, and boom, you've got Dino Thunder right there. Or if any of the other ones move across, like you had Brennan, he was over for doing Supergirl. I know obviously he's in LA, but if you bring him into it, boom, there's another one. So yeah, I think it's possible that it's a lot easier for them to film and also more appealing to.
I don't know if is she based out of there, because I think Cloak and Dagger ended maybe 2 years ago. So
yeah, I don't think it was a long show. I think it had a couple of seasons.
By the way, you guys in the chat, you guys have the ability to hit that super chat feature. We will answer any questions that come in. So yeah, hit that super chat feature. Let's talk about this for a second, Erlen, because you had mentioned some of these past Rangers jumping around in Canada being a part of this production. From everything that we know, though, it seems like this is going to be a new Power Ranger universe. So I think maybe we'll get some of those characters, but not necessarily the same actors. What says you, Jessica?
So you're saying, like, if they were to bring back
I'll give you a really good example. I think that there's a possibility we'll get another Jason, but I don't think that Jason's going to be played by Austin St. John. But there's also a possibility that this may not involve any characters that we currently know that or have been introduced to in the Power Ranger universe up
I'm
to
totally
now.
fine with it.
You know what I mean?
I am totally
So-
fine with that.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, if they look at they just want the suits. So thinking about it, like everyone hated Super Megaforce, but if you had like the Super Megaforce red suit, and that's randomly put on someone else, and then he comes in and he's just like whatever they want him to be like, I feel like people would be more excited because it has that kind of like, if you don't show the person who's the actor in that suit and then they demorph and it's just like, oh, there is Stephen Amell, and you're like, holy crap, they got Stephen Amell in, and then it's more kind of exciting. I feel like that's something that could work in their favor.
Completely agree with that. Now, here's an interesting thing. So I know way back, gosh, I want to say it was like 2020 when we broke the news.
In 2020.
Broke the news about the toy split from, at that time, Hasbro. Well, still at this time, Hasbro. It seems like those plans to bring Jenny Klein in have to do with that. I do think that COVID obviously has us in the position we are. I think a lot of the plans would have been accelerated had COVID not hit. But it definitely seems like what they're planning doesn't involve any Super Sentai adaptation. Would you guys agree or disagree with that?
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, with that being, go ahead, Justin.
I think that the initial plan was set pre-COVID, and once COVID hit, they had to move things around. And I think currently they're still trying to figure it out. I don't necessarily know if we're gonna hit that target date for when they're gonna, usually when they release the next season or whatever. I don't know if they're gonna hit that target date. I think there's gonna be a little bit of a lull,
Now, there's been a big discussion amongst Ranger Nation on what they kind of want to see from the future going forward. And I know that a lot of fans, there's a particular set of fans out there that feel that the Japanese adaptation into American footage equals Power Rangers. Is that a staple that you guys need in order to consider it Power Rangers? I mean, a great point of that is I know that we took the characters from the 2017 movie and we took a completely new aesthetic. And a lot of people said that, like, that's not my Power Rangers. So in order for it to be considered your Power Rangers, does it need to be adapted from the Japanese Super Sentai? Or what are the elements that need to be included for it to be considered Power Rangers?
I think we need to let go of that mentality. I think that's not my Power Rangers. We need to let go of that mentality. I think that the goal here, especially now for Hasbro, for this franchise to be successful, is new fans, or bringing in a new demographic of fans. I mean, while still paying homage to the original series and to the fans. I think if you just keep going about it with that mentality, you're not gonna see any growth as a franchise. And I think in order to get like a new audience, you have to change things up, but still like have little hints of the 30 years of lore that they've had. But I think that the fans, especially the ones that feel entitled to the franchise, if you don't have any money invested into the franchise, into the brand, then you have to let the brand do what they need to do to be successful.
Mariba makes a great point. He says, what about Snake Eyes? Wasn't the performance of Snake Eyes a factor in the delay as well? Absolutely. I think that really showed Hasbro that they couldn't play it as fast and loose as they wanted to with some of their properties outside of, like, I mean, obviously Hasbro has the license for Marvel and Star Wars, but not considering Transformers, Power Rangers, G.I. Joe. Those are hardcore Hasbro properties. Obviously My Little Pony falls into that as well. But Snake Eyes did not perform to the level they wanted it to. It did not kick off their G.I. Joe cinematic universe in the way that they wanted it to. There's been no further announcements of any other G.I. Joe films. So, I mean, it really did hinder those plans, which obviously I think is a trickle-down effect. That's a lot of money lost. I believe opening weekend, Snake Eyes made $8 million, which is definitely not its budget. And that had to be a trickle-down effect, from the top. So that probably had some factor into it too. By the way, in the chat, I want to know personally is what are some of the benchmark things that need to be in this new iteration that Jenny's taking over to be considered Power Rangers to you guys? Because I'm with Jezer on this. I feel like that old school mentality of like, okay, it needs to be adapted from the Japanese super needs to hit these. It needs to be rubber monsters. I agree. I feel like that necessarily doesn't necessarily need to be what Power Rangers is. I do agree with that.
One thing that's quite interesting is if you look at Samurai, it was a carbon copy of Shinkenger, and everybody goes like, "Oh, I hate Samurai." But then when they try to go off and do something completely different, they don't like it, and it's more like you either have to find that sweet spot or it doesn't do it. So if you adapted Zenkaija, doesn't work because it's too silly at times. But if you adapted Donbrothers, it's like there's two different like Japanese stories which may not kind of translate like very, very well. So when you look at like say Japan of how they're now handling it, it feels like the reigns of Saban were on there, and it's like, oh, you've got to make it like this. And now it's gone. It's like, oh, we can experiment with different stories. So I think that when you transition them, it's not working very well. And Japan's gone, well, we're okay with this now. You guys do what you want, use our suits, but do what you want.
Yeah.
I think that's possible because I don't know if anyone remembers this, but there was a show called Ultraman Towards the Future. I don't know. Does anyone remember that?
I don't. Like this is why you're on the show, Ash, for these deep cuts. Yeah. And I have no idea what you're talking about. But shoot.
So what it was an Ultraman show, but it used the premise of Ultraman, but it was filmed in Australia, so it had Australians doing American accents and stuff like that. So it was sort of like what we get now with Power Rangers, where it's using the concept with American footage. So I think that's possible that we can get a Power Rangers show that uses the concept with the rubber suits and the Ranger suits and stuff like that and do its own thing. I mean, we've got the comics where that doesn't adapt the Sentai. It uses the concept of the suits, but it's not sort of doing a one-for-one adaptation of like, I don't know, Q Ranger or Zoodra and stuff like that. It's just doing its own thing, doing its own story.
Power Rangers finds itself in this very unique landscape because it does have 30 years of continuity. 100% it has 30 years of continuity. But does it have 30 years of fluid continuity? And I think that any creator coming on would have to look at that as a daunting task, because are you kind of creating a new story based on that 30-year continuity? Or are you fixing that 30-year, like wasting your time fixing the 30-year continuity? Or is it just easier to cut your losses and start with something brand new? Now, there's two ways to look at this, I think, from my perspective as a fan. The first way to look at it is if you want to continue on with that 30-year continuity that we've invested time and built into, there's two ways to do it. One, which Ash has been covering week to week here at the Illuminerdi, is through the comic books. It's a great way to visually tell the story, and there's not necessarily a budget that you're putting in a comic book. But the second way to do that is let's Simon Bennett, and let's see what Simon Bennett does with the 30th anniversary. But just because just because Jenny is taking over one Power Ranger franchise doesn't mean there can't be two.
I get you.
Let's have one that kind of still markets and targets those kids and sells the toys to those kids, and still continues on with our 30-year continuity. But also, let's start with something fresh that may tell an advanced story for some of us adult fans that we can get invested to as well. There's nothing that says both can't be true. The only thing that is the deterrent here is, can both be profitable?
Yeah.
That's the real question. Us as fans, like we would want stuff like that, but will we turn out to go see both things like that? You know what I mean? Will we go out and actively support both things, both Power Ranger properties like that? What says you guys?
I think, I mean, I'd support it. I mean, if they produce stuff like 4 different versions, 5 different versions, it's getting more out there. I mean, it's not like you have to watch the series and go, oh, I can't read the comic books. So if you start reading the comic books, I can't watch the show. So, a lot of people watch Power Rangers and Super Sentai. So I feel like if you had more to show, I think people would fall behind, get behind it and go, yeah, I'm on board. I'd be on board for anything that they produce. But if they make something like ridiculously kiddish, like Spider-Man and His Amazing Friend type thing, where it's like it doesn't fit. But if it's more like canon, then Netflix, then comic books and movies, I'd be all for it.
Jezer, I have a question for you. What are some of the lessons that Jenny Klein can learn from the 2017 movie?
Ooh, some of the lessons she can learn, because I feel like she's gonna be coming out of the same element of the same world that
Which is exactly my point, and I think this is such a fascinating question.
the same world that what was his name, Dean Israelite did. I came out of, and I think that she can. I think one thing that he made a mistake in was finding the perfect balance between telling a full story about these characters and still keeping the essence of what Power Rangers is, or what people think Power Rangers is. I think that's an easy thing for someone to learn, like just based off reception. I think that she's gonna have it easier because the framework that she saw that didn't work is already, she already saw what happened. So I think that her, if let's say, imagine what is she given? What's her timetable? She gets a season, maybe like at the least maybe 10 episodes or so. At the least,
Yeah.
She has the time to kind of write it out and frame it perfectly that it fits the narrative that she wants to tell, but it also appeases the new fans and old fans. And I mean, we've seen storytelling told in like 10 episodes and still while still feeling short, still giving you that that fulfillment as far as the things that you want to see. I mean, Disney Plus is doing it constantly. Freaking Netflix does it all the time. And I think that seeing what Dean did with his movie and being able to translate it into a long form format, it will be easier. I think Dean had his back against the wall and pretty much had to try to reinvent the wheel when the wheel didn't really need to be reinvented. And all you have to do is look at other successful franchises, other successful shows and stuff, and just, no, I'm not saying copy, but just replicate the format.
Ash, let me ask you the super chat. Thomas DeCoste, thank you so much for that super chat. He says, could we get an MMPR revision 2.0 for 2023?
If he's referring to the MMPR revision or reversion we got in 2010, I hope not.
I would hate that.
I hope not.
Well, let's take that a step further. Let's take this one step further. Do you think that our 30th anniversary could be an MMPR season, but not necessarily the ones we've seen? A brand new MMPR season, not necessarily with the new Dino powers, but a continuation of a story that we already know, where we are finding like this Yin character, which is obviously Trini's daughter, and surrounding it around a new story, but one that already takes place in the continuity of Power Rangers. Do you think that MMPR season can be on the table for this 30th anniversary?
Oh yeah, I'd love that. Sort of like a 30 years later, where are they now with these characters? Because that's what a lot of people always ask.
Maybe not even where are these now, but introducing us to one of our character that keeps us connected to the greater universe would be this Yin character, which would be Trini's daughter for all intents purposes. But another new group of teenagers that she meets along the way that are from Angel Grove or Stone Canyon. I think it'd be interesting if they were all from Stone Canyon, which is a city that we hadn't really seen much of. But do you think that can be our new season with new characters ripped out into the world?
Oh yeah, that'd be great as well. Having a brand new cast of characters we can meet, and maybe somehow they're sort of tied or connected into the original cast in some shape or form. Like, not even make them be like the sort of like relatives of like our main 5 or 6 Rangers. Like maybe one of the new Rangers is related to Bulk or Skull. That'd be pretty cool as well.
Sure. I mean, I would love to see a descendant of Lieutenant Stone somewhere in there. I think would be really cool.
Wow, that's a deep cut.
Maybe I don't know. Hey, maybe there's like, I don't know, like an Appleby or a Kaplan kid running around, from some
the grandson of Ernie.
Grandson of Ernie. I mean, there's a handful of legacy characters that don't need to be a direct one-on-one from their Power Ranger parentage. And I think that, in all honesty, I think that one thing that Power Rangers, and look, at the end of the day, we're talking about a kid show, and we're all aware of this. But in terms of that storytelling, it didn't have to be that deep. But now that we're kind of, just the way that we're consuming content, the way kids are consuming content, we want deeper stories told especially throughout time. Mark, you have Doctor Who out there, and Doctor Who took a long break in between like the early 2000s to the late 90s, early 2000s, right around there.
Yeah.
When Doctor Who went on hiatus, it still continued to tell its storylines and continued to carry over its continuity. With Power Rangers, do you think that it lends itself well to just starting over again, or do you think that they should continue to tell the continuity they've been building up for the last 30 years?
I think if you took it off the air like Doctor Who and came back in like a couple of years, I feel like if you did take it off, I don't think it'd restart again, because as much as with Doctor Who, it's always had the fan base regardless, and it's been going on for so many years. And even though it followed the same formula, it came back and it was just like, oh, this is fine, and it had good writing behind it. With Power Rangers, I feel like if you take it off the air, it's gone. If they did continue it, I think that maybe as someone mentioned about with Yen at least, I feel like that's a good way. And having it so maybe it could be the Descendants, or it could be someone completely different. I feel like if you're telling a story that's interesting, it will gravitate round. But at the other side, people will just go, oh, it's Mighty Morphing again. And if we'd never had Mighty Morphing, forced in our faces all the time, I feel like it could possibly work, because it'd be like, oh my god, Mighty Morphing. Now it's more kind of like, oh, it's Mighty Morphing. So if they did it completely different, it would work. I don't know if it would survive, like, say, Doctor Who, because even though that's turned quite bad quite recently, it's still, you have to bring back David Tennant for this new version. And it's like, is that going to save it, or is it going to be bad?
So, what's interesting, something I didn't really think of until right now, is that I know that we're talking about the legacy of these great shows continuing, but we've already been introduced to one of the Mighty Morphin legacy characters already, not just in comics, but in live action as well. I mean, we haven't seen the character live action yet, but we do know that JJ exists in the universe. And JJ, at this point in 2023, he'd be about the age of like a Ranger would be, because isn't he like a kid when we meet him in Dimensions of Danger? It's like a young kid, right? So he would probably be a teenager in 2023. What's the possibility that JJ is a prominent character within that season as well?
Oh, very possible. Got to have that descendant of Tommy in there some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Well, it would work well, because in the Zeo episode, it's like, he runs out the house and they're like, we know what he's doing, and it's like they figure it out beforehand. So even if you had JJ come back and you didn't even have JDF be involved, I think it would work. And I think people have been screaming out for ages, like, we want to know what happens more. Like, I know they wanted Jenna to come back or to be it, so it carries on the legacy of it. But JJ, I think, would probably work, because we know he's an SPD. So I think it would work. I think it's just how they implement it.
If the 30th season has already kind of like SPD recruiting, like right now at the ground level, I think would be really cool for 20, and have, have kind of like JJ teetering on whether he's going to join SPD or not, or whether he joins this new like Ranger team that Yin's a part of. I mean, I feel like there's elements of this story that just writes itself, that isn't necessarily reliant on its past Rangers to really carry it. And I think that should really be the beauty of this 30th anniversary. Not necessarily, I mean, it should be celebrating the past 30 years, but it really should be looking forward for the next 30 years, because we all want Power Rangers to be around for the next 30 years. In terms of this Jenny Klein announcement, though, what can we expect as fans from bringing her on to the show?
I generally think, like,
at whatever iteration the show is.
If you've watched Jessica Jones, if you've watched all the stuff that she's done, like,
I
mean, I haven't watched Cloak and Dagger. I think I started watching it a little bit, but with Jessica, it was more kind of, it told a story. It told stuff like in the first one, like you have Kilgrave, and he's like, oh, I'm now going to mess up. I want Jessica back, and that's the whole progress. And it works so well, even the fight scenes or even some of it. So I think that with Jenny coming on board, I feel like we're going to get that sort of storytelling. So I think that we may get 20 episodes or we may get 10, but I feel like we'll get a proper story flushed out where we could see stuff behind, like, oh, here is SPD, or here is this. I want it to be good, and I hope she delivers on it.
I think she will. With Cloak and Dagger, like you were saying about Jessica Jones, the story was pretty fleshed out. Like the main goal was to figure out the mystery behind their family's death or whatever. And the way that it played out, like every single episode kind of, lent itself to the main goal and the finale of this whole thing. And I think if she's fully in control of the story, I think that she's going to emphasize a lot of storytelling and character development. And if that's the way that they want to go with Power Rangers, I think it'll be cool. And I think that talking
Jezza,
to
do you think the
audience,
tone of her
what is it?
do you think the tone of her story that they're going to be telling is going to be more along the lines of like a Cloak and Dagger, like that?
Maybe
tone?
a little bit lighter. Maybe like
Runaways.
Yeah, I feel like Runaways is a more an easier, like, digestible, like, story. Yeah, I think like Runaways, like a tier above like a CW show, without the angst and the whininess of it, but still.
Yeah. She was a writer on Supernatural, so she does have that CW angst
Well, that
and teen
Supernatural
vibe
was
going
like
for it.
a different part, like
Yeah,
it
leagues
wasn't like
above whatever they put out
Riverdale
with the
and
superhero
Vampire
stuff. Yeah,
Diaries or something. Supernatural was it was great. Like even when it got bad, it got bad, and they leaned into it. And credit to Jensen Ackles,
she was the writer. Yeah, sorry to cut you off, but she was like the writer on Supernatural from season 4 up to 2016 when I was checking her
so that was actually
IDW page.
That was actually like prime time of Supernatural, when they really kind of.
Yeah, she's done a lot of
and
episodes.
they really found their element. The first few seasons, they kept leaning into the dark part of the supernatural world, but then, from then on, they kind of sometimes broke the fourth wall, and kind of just leaned into a lot of the meta-ness of that world. So I think that, if she adds that element, I think that'd be fun.
Do you think that Jenny Klein is going to bring more of the element of kind of the sci-fi nature of Power Rangers, or more of like pulling from the supernatural, a little bit of the darker nature of Supernatural? Like, where do you think her kind of like storytelling is going to be with when she gets to Power Rangers? I mean, is this essentially going to be like a sci-fi type of show, or a teen angsty CW type of show?
I mean, it could.
Or Karate Kid, or
Cobra
Karate
Kai,
Kid, or
yeah.
whatever. Cobra Kai.
It could be. I mean, one of the things that maybe they should look at, if they do want to add legacy to it, is like that rebooted Saved by the Bell, and how they handle it. And I know it's not the same tone, but how they handled using the legacy characters or the returning characters. But it could work.
Now, we do got a little bit in the chat here. Mariba says he expects the reboot to be out by 2024, possibly 2025. Via game, let's see, sci-fi show is what Donnie Pearson is kind of looking for. Look, let's talk about this. When do you think that we'll see Jenny Klein's effect on Power Rangers? When do you think we'll see your fingerprints on it? My guess is the earliest we'll see that is 2024.
I agree.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, if they run it, so if Simons runs next year and it goes on for the entire year, I think by the end of it, early 2024. I just hope that they kind of lock in together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, you mean coordinate with what Simon's doing with what this new universe is doing?
Yeah, so if they do whatever is next, so if it's an adaptation of like Zoodra, if it's Dino Fury, they think let's keep going with that. Like if they lock it in and go, okay, we do it like, say, in a way like Sentai, where it's like we'll start in like, say, February, and then we get one a week until the end of December type thing, and then it's like, oh, you wait 3 months and then here it comes, and then maybe do a cameo where you get Russell comes in and he's just like, oh my god, this is a new world, or even if they, I'd love it if they hinted at it like in the middle of Dino Fury season, like the second part. It's like, oh my god, I saw another world and there's another ranger just standing there with the back. Love it.
So ironically, I think that the one, I know that Jonathan Entwistle's tweet said something along the lines of like, it'll be faces you're familiar with.
New universe.
Yeah, new universe,
but
but some faces you might be familiar with. If I had to guess who one of those faces, if we're saying that it's somebody from Power Rangers past, because the way that I kind of took that is like, if faces you might be familiar with might be actors we might be familiar with, but if it is characters we might be familiar with, I think the one character that will translate over kind of seamlessly is going to end up being Dr. K.
Ooh.
Because I do think that Dr. K is one of the characters, especially in a darker tone. You imagine if we get like to see her RPM just in the way that it's supposed to be shown. I think Dr. K is an easy character that could possibly, and we already know that she has the ability to dimension hop within the Power Ranger universe.
Yeah.
So I
Didn't
think
she invent those?
what's
I
that?
can't remember.
It's Time Force.
Didn't she invent those devices?
Which is
Time
exactly
Force.
why I think. Well, Time Force is an interesting. I put it this way: I think that we'll definitely see Time Force officers, whether or not we'll see Jen Scotts or any of the other characters we know, played by the same actors. I don't know, but I definitely think Time Force has to have a presence in this because it's such a that and SPD are such a well-established benchmarks of the Power Ranger universe that are easy enough to carry over into a major sci-fi type of show. If that becomes a sci-fi type of show, because if it stays at the ground level, kind of like that Cobra Kai level, then we're talking about something completely different. Because then they really are starting from something completely different. So who knows? I mean, I think right now is a really exciting time to be a Power Ranger fan, but there's a lot of question marks out there, right? And we can't forget because Simon Bennett's not done yet. We still have another half a season to close out Dino Fury, which I'm really excited about.
We don't even know when that's going to happen. I think it's coming soon. I think they might. I think they might drop that July 1st, same time as Stranger Things. I think so. I think that. I think so? I think it's coming soon.
Maybe because they dropped it on like a Tuesday for season 2, part 1. So because it's like Power Rangers, and it's like more focused towards the kids, I think they can drop that whenever, due to the bingeable nature of like whatever the free time like the target audience is. Because Friday is a good time to drop something like Stranger Things or your BoJack Horseman's where people binge that over the weekend. I think with Power Rangers, just drop it whenever and it should do well. But seeing how it's like summertime in America, school holidays and stuff like that, they could drop it whenever in July. I think
July would be a good time.
We do have a question for you, Ash, in the super chat. He says, do you think Lord Zed could be the main villain for the 30th anniversary season? That is by Johnny Mario. Do you think that Lord Zed can be the villain for the 30th season?
Seeing how Dino Fury season 2 part 2 ends, we'll see if he survives or not. Maybe he gets away.
I mean, Joe, you did
ask
him in the interview. He said that where does he think Lord Zed is, and he said he's somewhere on a different planet, licking his wounds and plotting his next attack.
Lord Zed wields a dark power capable of overwhelming Power Rangers and villains alike. Upon his return, Lord Zed nearly defeated the Dino Fury Rangers before unexpected invention saved them from his wrath. He withdrew to a distant planet to plot his next move and his revenge against the Power Rangers. So we definitely know Lord Zed's coming back.
Yeah,
right?
He's definitely coming back. I mean, that's a missed opportunity if they drop him in like that and then just have him disappear and not come back. You know.
We also have to assume too that Mick is coming back for the end of Dino Fury at some point in time.
I mean, and we know
so that'll
that
be
General. What's her name? Shaw.
Commander Shaw
is coming back.
Her resume was leaked like last year. They show that she had like an acting credit in Dino
so
Fury.
she's coming back. So it's figuring out how that plays part, and I think that's cool.
Maybe. Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. If she comes back, I want literally most of the budget going on like SWAT cars, everything, like big massive van, and it's just the staff. That's it, and it's in an oversized van, and then like just doing it, and Lord Zed just busts in and like kicks them all out. And I want a whole action scene of something like that.
I'm imagining that scene from that terrible movie X3 where Magneto breaks out Mystique from that moving convoy.
Oh yes.
And then it's just
we're multiple mans in there,
but it's just Lord Zed doing all of it, and then he's just to get his staff, and then he's just like. Yes.
We do have another person in the chat, Robert Venezuela. Thank you so much for joining us. Look, I think we're coming to a close here, but if we have any final thoughts on Jenny Klein and her taking over power, or being, I don't want to say taking over because that's the wrong way, her being the new showrunner that's announced for Power Rangers, what are you excited most about this change? Or about this news? It's not really a change, but...
I think with the news, I'm excited because of all the credits. If it was someone really random that had one credit on something, I would be like, but seeing her list of like Supernatural, Jessica Jones, Cloak and Dagger and all these other things as well. I'm excited because it means that it's going to be a fresh, like a new fresh of life into it, and that's what I'm more excited about. What we get is something completely different, but for now, I'm like, do you know what? If I can see this, and if it does well on Netflix, it brings in people that have not watched it for ages and gone, oh, I'm just going to check this out, and it brings more people into it. I think it's going to do really well.
Nice.
Jester, how about yourself, buddy?
I think that everything's gonna be good. I think that depending on where she falls in line as far as what they want to do the franchise, I think that they made a choice to bring her in for a reason, and I think that I really do think Simon Bennett still has some part in he has, I think he has fully a job for season 30, but I think he also has some part in the future of Power Rangers also, because just listening to that interview with him, he's so enthusiastic and he's still invested in the brand, and I highly doubt they're gonna let an asset like that go. There's so many dedicated producers out there that really get themselves into that world, and you don't really just let them walk away,
Yeah.
How about you, Ash?
What everyone else has said, what won me over with Jenny was her resume, because they could have had someone who's had no experience, they haven't worked on many shows, but as soon as I Googled Jenny's name and saw what she's worked on, that's what won me over, and I think it's in good hands with her, whatever she's going to do. So whatever tone or script she's going to bring to the series, I'm definitely
Would you
looking
guys
forward
say
to
that?
it.
Would
Yeah, I
you
think
guys say that you're more confident with her than Entwistle's resume?
Yeah, definitely. Because Entwistle, I had heard people had watched what he's done, like End of the Effing World, which I haven't seen, but I heard good things about. But the stuff that Jenny's done, I had seen The Witcher, I've seen Supernatural, I've seen Jessica Jones, I've heard good things about Cloak and Dagger. So a lot of stuff that Jenny's done, a lot of people are familiar with, and I kind of got that engagement when I posted my video about her, where people said, "Oh, I like Jessica Jones," so I think it's in good hands. So seeing that she's done stuff that people are familiar with, I think that puts a lot of faith in her.
Jonathan Entwistle, I feel, understands teen angst, so it feels like they're definitely the roots of Power Rangers are, teenagers with attitudes, and I think that that is the direction we could end up going. But I don't want to discredit anything Simon Bennett has done, mainly because I agree with you guys. Jenny Slate's her film credentials are they speak
Jenny
for
Klein.
themselves. I think she knows how to. Sorry, what
Jenny
did I say?
Slate.
Jenny Slate?
Slate.
Oh, she's an actress. She was in the first Venom movie. She's also a comedian. But Jenny Klein, I meant to say Jenny Klein. We obviously her filmography speaks for itself. The show running ability is going to be something interesting for her to deal with Power Rangers. But I'm fully confident in her creative ability, because I think the one thing that Power Rangers needs the most is good creators on it. And same thing with Simon. They might not have been shows that he was on prior that I knew, but the dude knows how to tell great stories, and he understands. Like Jezer was saying, just to kind of follow up on that, I think he is an asset going forward to the future of Power Rangers. Somebody that's invested so much of their time, effort, heart, and energy into the show. To try to make it as best they can, especially with limitations. I want to say first season limitations, but limitations on Power Rangers for what it is. I think the dude is getting the best he can and turning it into lemonade. And I think that if you were actually able to give him kind of a free reign to do the story that he wanted to do in Power Rangers, I think that could also be a phenomenal story to tell. And I hope that, honestly, he has something to do with whatever reunion special looks like and whatever the 30th season looks like. I hope he definitely has his fingerprints all over it, because the one thing we can all agree on as Ranger fans is that we absolutely love the callbacks that he's been doing in his current season. I think above all else, that's been phenomenal. That's been a fantastic job he's been doing with that. As far as Jenny Klein goes, I'm excited to see what she brings to the table, because we already know that she can tell good stories. But now it's going to be the question is, can you tell good Power Ranger stories? And I think she can. I think she can. And that's another fine line thing too, because Power Rangers does have to have certain elements to it in order for it to be considered Power Rangers. But I'd like the fact that we could be getting something completely new. I'm excited about that. Really excited about that, actually. But you know what? Right now is a great time to be a Ranger fan. I feel like there's something for everybody. And once we get that animated series going, there really will be something for everybody. So hopefully we get that coming soon. We get an announcement on that. But guys, I think that's a good place to call the show. Ash, what time is it in Australia there, buddy?
It is nearly 6 a.m.
The sun is coming up. It's
Dawn,
a
son.
beautiful day. Happy Father's Day in Australia already. If you guys celebrate Father's Day, which I'm sure you guys do. But yeah, man, thank you guys so much for joining us here on the Ranger Nation discussion and the Ranger wrap-up. Ash, where can everybody find you on social media, my friend?
You can find me at Deoxy360 on Twitter, Instagram, and I was going to say Facebook, not on Facebook. But yeah, you can find me at Deoxy360 on Instagram and Twitter and on my YouTube page.
And where
I talk about Power Rangers.
Yes, what's the next video you have coming out, Ash?
Oh, what's the next video? I'll probably have a Donbrothers review on Monday, but Wednesday, I believe Godzilla versus Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 4 is coming out.
And his YouTube link is in the description below. Heirloom, where can everybody find you, sir?
You can find me everywhere bar Twitter at Heirloom, but you can find me on Twitter as at Mainstream Live.
Nice.
And what's your next video going to be about?
The next one that I've got up is the Super Megaforce acting wasn't that bad.
Oh, there you go.
Crazy.
There you go.
Is that an April Fool's video?
I guarantee I'm going to get but Super Megaforce was really bad, and Troy was so wooden. He was like this and like that. And I'm going to be like, well, whatever you want.
Yeah, no, I've made the defense that it was just the directing and stuff like that.
Well, look, go and check out Heirloom. His links are also in the description below. Jezzer, where can everybody find you, my friend?
You can find me everywhere at Jezzer Zeus right there.
And you can find me in your hearts and in your minds talking about Power Rangers every single week right here at the Ranger Wrap-Up. You can follow me on social media at Joe Illuminerdi, even though I hardly use it. I'm going to be on Twitter this week. I'm coming back to Twitter. I'm going to be tweeting up Power Rangers. I was going to say tweeting up a storm. Tweeting up a lightning storm, if you will. Thank you so much to my fellow cast members, Jezzer, Mark, Ash, Liz, Dan,
Josh
Perry. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button to stay up to date with everything trending in geek
pop culture.
Thank you so much.